As you know, on the 1st of November, new plumbing laws are being implemented on the plumbing industry by the Plumbing Industry Council. This meeting is about understanding what those laws are and how they affect our industry and how we avoid the fines associated with this legislation.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And as a new elected member of our area, it's our duty to come and listen to concerns. And this is a government that wants to reduce red tape, not make it harder or worse on a particularly small business, and that's what all you people are in this room. And so I applaud Mark and Rob Jones for bringing this to my attention about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And Gavin and I will be down in Parliament next week, and we'll be beating a door to Bruce Flegg's office, the Minister for Housing and Works and so forth. So as Mark just said before, if we can take a lot of heat out of it, let's get the issues on the table. And we as your elected representative, will be fighting hard for you. So I applaud Chris Harris for coming up from the south. And we want to take the red tape away, not make it harder to you guys. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for your words. I'd just also like to ask Chris Harris, the Registrar of the Plumbing Industry Council, who's also a licensed plumber, with a practical and policy experience in plumbing, and also like a master's degree in construction management and also other post-qualified qualifications. Phil Demon is the Principal Advisor of the Plumbing Legislation and Standard Branch of the Plumbing Industry Council, so we've got a fairly reasonable representation from the Plumbing Industry Council here. We just would like to hand it over to them to explain to us what we need to do.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming along. Hopefully, at the end of this session, you'll have a real good grasp on what the changes will mean for you. There has been a significant number of roadshows that we've undertaken for quite considerable over the last 6 or 7 weeks. I did come up to Cairns on I think it was the 27th of September, and spoke to obviously many of you, I'm sure, in the room. Unfortunately, at that time, we were limited with the amount of information, actual information that we had available to you. But that is we've now managed to get that out. Can I just make sure that everybody picked up at least the guide when they come in the room? The blue thick page guide. That guide is now on the website, and it's a guideline to give a bit more of a breakdown of what's involved, particularly for you guys, and especially we've dealt with the schedules. So what we're going to do, Phil is going to work through the schedule part of the presentation, in particular, and then what we'll do is we'll work our way through that bit of that guide, so you get some examples of the work you can and can't do under the new process. So I'll hand it over to Phil. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Chris. Can everybody hear me back there? No problems? Yep. Okay, look, part of the presentation we're doing today is more of a workshop, so it's not just me presenting to you guys, you listen, then everyone throws their hands up. So as we go along, if you've got any questions, please put your hand up. If you want further detail, happy to do it for you. But like I said, there's a bit of a workshop. Happy to answer the questions as we go along, so please, if you've got any problems or you've missed a bit, someone was talking. The other thing is, because there's so many guys in the rooms, obviously we don't have microphones out in the audience, so some of the guys in the rooms might not be able to hear your questions. So where you can, if you can speak really loudly so the rest of the guys can hear what you're saying, and if need be, I'll actually repeat that question back to the crowd so you know exactly what the question is. So I'll just go through the presentation. As Chris said, this is probably the biggest change in plumbing in the last 40 years. And through the last sort of 18 months, there's been quite a great deal of consultation through all sort of industry groups, associations. We're talking like the local master plumbers, those sort of guys. I know in North Queensland you feel sort of left out from the rest of the state. That's understandable. Where we can, we're up here more often than not. I actually checked my diary last time before we left the office today, and we've actually been in this area probably about 9 times in the last 2 years. So we are up here very regularly, and we're obviously, in the last couple of months, we've been training local government plumbing inspectors, talking to plumbers, obviously doing licence checks, trying to investigations, all those sorts of things. But look, I'll get on with the actual presentation. As I said, if you've got any questions, please let us know as we go along, and we'll try and go in as much detail as we get and give you some good examples. So just a bit of an overview, the background. So the new category of plumbing and drainage work will be notifiable work. So the notified lodgement process. Now, I think when they were up here last time, they didn't actually go through the actual lodgement process. Are you guys aware there's 2 ways to do it, manually and electronically? So towards the end of the presentation later on in the night, if you want to sort of stay around, I can actually go through the electronic side for you if you wish. It's quite a simple process, but I think once you sort of see how it sort of flows through the system, it's quite easy to use. Obviously, the audit programs, that's both the PIC and local government, and new offences and penalties. So as we said, as of the 1st of November 2012, the new category of plumbing and drainage work called Notifiable Work will come into force. So it replaces the current category of notifiable minor work, will apply to most plumbing and drainage work undertaken on existing homes. And that's probably the key word there, is existing properties, okay? So if you're doing new work at the moment, all you ever do is new work, your world will not change whatsoever. If you're doing new work, it'll be exactly as you do it at the moment, full compliance. You'll get your application, your permit, go and do the work, call for inspections, get your final inspection, and away you go. It's only if you're doing work on existing properties that this will actually affect you. So we did a lot of consultation, obviously, with industry groups, HIA, BSA, all those sort of people. They've come back with some information for us in relation to how much work has actually been done in the last sort of 12-month period. The HIA was able to come back with an estimate of 89,000 kitchen and bathroom renovations in the last 12 months. Now, I can guarantee throughout the whole of Queensland we would not have got 89,000 plumbing applications for those things. Main reason being the current system is I wouldn't say unworkable, but it's very difficult for guys to comply with. That's why we brought these new changes in, to make it easier for you to comply with the current legislation. Now, obviously, savings to homeowners. No longer will they have to pay exorbitant application fees for minor alterations or extensions to bathrooms, those sorts of things. It's rather than paying your $600, $700, $800 for a plumbing permit, it's now just going to be $25 or $35, depending on how you lodge your paperwork. And as I said, an existing building. So what is an existing building? So an existing building must have an existing drain and water supply to be classified as an existing building, okay? If you've got a shed in the backyard with no plumbing to it, any work you do on that shed will still be Form 1 compliance work. But I'll explain that in detail as we go through. So the new system, when a licensee performs the work, they must lodge the form within 10 business days after completing the work. Now, in a minute, I'll give you a definition of when the work is completed, because in the past, with new work, we've had a lot of problems where the guys have finished the work, and for whatever reason, it's just dragged on and on and on. So we've actually defined when it is actually deemed to be completed. And I'll give you that definition in a minute. So once, only one Form 4 is required for all work carried out under a single transaction for a single property. So for example, if you're doing a bathroom renovation at that property and you've got 4 guys working for you, all 5 of you won't have to put a Form 4 in. Just one responsible person will put the Form 4 in for that job. We're not asking for 5 Form 4s for 5 people. The forms can be lodged, as I said, electronically or manually. Now, I think quite a few have already probably got your manual big checkbook. It's quite possible some of you haven't at this stage. We've had a little bit of problem with some of the delivery, but I'm pretty sure, just a show of hands, everybody got the checkbook? Yep? No? Okay, well, you'll get that very, very shortly. Chris has got an example one there we can probably hand out if you want to have a look at it.
Well, that's fine. I just stay on that, Phil. Yeah, look, this book, the last amount that's been posted, we've been told this morning. So you should be getting something in the next couple of days. The book, this is my book. So I do have one as well. This is what it will look like. We've also got a slide up there that shows you a bit better. And with that comes a schedule. I think some of you I've seen have a copy of the schedule there. So there's a bit better explanation, and there's also a covering letter that goes with it as well. So those books, and that's if you want to use the manual lodgement process, you can use those books.
Yeah, I've actually got a demonstration slide here. We'll actually go through detail of that checkbook and fill it out. You mate? Yeah, okay, we'll just have a show of hands. How many guys have actually received that booklet so far? Obviously, yeah, that postal one hasn't happened yet. Yep. Okay, look, I'm a licensee myself. I got mine probably 2 days ago, so being in Brisbane area, probably the first off the run, but I can guarantee you'll get that very, very soon. So we'll just keep going with the presentation. Inspection and notifiable works are not required. So as in the past, when you do regulated plumbing work, you have to have your plumbing application and request inspections and get your work inspected. No longer required for minor works. So the key is, on existing properties, you can go and do the work, put the paperwork when you're finished. There's no calling for inspections. However, there will be some audit inspections, which I'll talk about in a minute, that the local governments may apply. Now, we're not saying that if you want an inspection, you can't get one. So as a licensee, if you go to a job, for example, it's a DIY disaster, they've got you in to do a bathroom renovation, you're really sort of hesitant and think, look, this is really non-compliant, I don't want to put my name on this, you can still call for a plumbing inspection through your local government. So all we ask is that you call the local government and say, look, I'm doing this work at whatever place, I wish to get an inspection. Most local governments have opted to a one-off fee. Most of them have kept it sort of to the $100 to $150 a month for the one-off inspection. I'm not sure what it is in Cairns. Do we have any inspectors here tonight? No? But, yep. So what's your one-off fee here, guys? So 130 for a one-off inspection for minor work. So if you feel that you want to get, for example, the drain inspected, it'll cost you an extra $130. But you do have that option. You're not just sort of out there by yourself. You can actually call up the local government. And with our electronic system, you can actually request it online as well. So all you have to do is just tick a box, and that'll notify the local government that you wish to have an inspection taking place as well. So consistent fees and lodgement across Queensland. The reason we're asking that the Form 4s now come to the Plumbing Industry Council is we're trying to keep it consistent. We realise we're in a big state, lots and lots of shires and councils. I think from memory it's about 75 different councils within Queensland. So obviously that's quite a few. And when you're working through the state, it's hard to understand exactly what council you're dealing with. So at least with this type of work, which is probably the more relevant work, because with the bigger work, you pretty much know where the application's been lodged. From now on, all your Form 4s will come to the PIC. You know exactly what it's going to cost you. You know exactly where to send it, no matter where you are in Queensland. Now, as I said before, some of the key concepts we wanted to talk about when the work is actually completed. So when plumbing and drainage work is operational, we're deeming that to be completed. So if the people are actually using that plumbing system, as of that date, you have 10 days to put your paperwork in with the PIC. Or if you have an invoice that's been issued for the work, as of the date of the invoice, you've got 10 days to put the Form 4 in with the PIC. So just keep that in mind. If they're using the system, it's deemed to be operational and it's deemed to be completed. And also, if it's not, you know, look, as far as payment goes, we'll talk about that later on, but we'll definitely cover that later on in the presentation. We'll just get through this so people understand exactly what's required first. So installation. So we'll just go through what is an installation. So where a plumbing and drainage item, for example, a fixture, is connected permanently in position for service or use in a plumbing system. So basically, if you're installing something new into a plumbing system, that's classified as an installation. Okay, so that's quite important. Repair, so making repairs to an existing plumbing or drainage system to restore it in good and sound condition. Now, when you're repairing something, you're not replacing hundreds of metres of pipe work, you're just repairing the issue at hand. So, for example, if you're doing a job and old mate's digging a pool and he's put a crowbar through the sewer pipe, you can repair that. Okay, it's classified as a repair, it's not replacement, you're repairing that broken pipe. Replacement, so removing a plumbing and drainage item, for example, a fixture, and replacing it with a similar item. So for example, if you've got a toilet, it's an old 12-litre flush toilet, you can replace that with a new toilet. Okay, so that's a similar fixture in the same way. Currently, with the way the Act's written, and this is why we've actually gone through this whole process, you can replace the pan under the Notifiable Work situation, but you couldn't replace the cistern. It was a crazy situation where if you were replacing a cistern on a toilet, you'd have to put a Form 1 in with council. So those sort of little things that we've tidied up the best we can, because obviously it's pretty unworkable, and this is the reason we've gone down this path. So removal. So removing a plumbing and drainage item, for example, a fixture, and closing the connection. So that's pretty self-explanatory. If you remove something, you're sealing the drain or water connection. Single transaction, generally given in ordinary meaning, the work was part of a single work order, was carried out continuously, or an invoice has been issued for the work. So that's pretty self-explanatory as well. Now, we're just going to go through building types. This is pretty critical to the way we're actually doing things. So we'll just go through what a Class 1 domestic building is. So Class 1 detached house, terrace house, or small boarding houses. Now, all this is in the BCA, which is the Building Code of Australia, which is part of the Construction Code. Now, in that series, there's 3 parts. The first 2 parts are for building, and the third part is your Plumbing Code of Australia. I don't expect you guys to be too familiar with the Plumbing Code of Australia, but obviously designers, councils, and also like the likes of the PIC, we rely on that document, which actually is the basis of what we do. It sort of explains when doing plumbing work, how to do it, that sort of thing. So when we move on to the Class 10, which is a non-habitable structure such as a garage or a shed. So they're the 2 critical ones. So your Class 1s and 10s are the ones where you can actually perform drainage work, okay? when you're moving your 2 to 9s, which is any other building, we won't go into too much details for the 2 to 9s, but generally it's other types of buildings like apartments, commercial and public buildings. So just remember, if you're working on a 1 or a 10, which is your domestic house or a shed or a garage, those particular dwellings you can actually perform drainage work under the new minor work system. Anything other than that, you will have to put a Form 1 in for compliance. So for example, if you're doing a shop tenancy on a new shopping centre, generally there's already a drain there in the actual tenancy. If you can hook onto that drain and put a sink in above ground, that can be performed under the Form 4. But if you've got to cut the slab and do some drainage work, that would then trigger a Form 1 compliance process. So now this is probably the most critical part of the whole thing. Has everybody got a copy of these schedules? There's 1 to 16. I'll just let you guys turn to the page. Now, we've highlighted the most important parts just so that you understand exactly what we're talking about. Now, number 1 is emergency work. That's a carryover from the existing notifiable work. So any work that of an emergency nature, for example, if a hot water heater blew up and you have to get the water on straight away, can be performed under this system. Okay? So that's pretty self-explanatory. Any sort of emergency work can be done as a Form 4.
Yep. Phil, I just want to add on to the emergency work, because we've had that queried a few times. The emergency work has never been taken out the schedule, but there's always been some queries as to what actually is the definition of emergency work. So let me give you a simple example. What the object of that is if something happened that caused a significant issue to occur, which meant that the work needed to be done urgently for health and safety, but the work would normally be compliance accessible, and I'm thinking of a treatment plant as a perfect example, that, say, a tree fell on it and damaged it badly and there was sewage gushing everywhere, then quite clearly in that case, the object of this is to allow you to do compliance accessible, what would be compliance accessible work under the emergency provisions. It's not emergency work because the owner thinks it's emergency work. So if the owner's putting up a paint picture on the wall, and they put an out through the wall and they put it through the poly pipe, it's an emergency to them, absolutely, because there's water belting out everywhere. But as far as this is concerned, you would just do that repair. If you just cut in and put a coupling on it, that would just be minor work. No forms, no nothing. So the intent of the emergency work here is to give you the opportunity to do in an emergency with something that would normally be a permit that you can do as a Form 4.
Okay, so we'll move on to number 2. So number 2, so we'll just go through this really slowly so you understand it. So work necessary for extending, altering, replacing or removing an existing water supply pipe. So what is a water supply pipe? Basically that's from the water meter into the actual property. So currently to do something like that would be a Form 1 process. Under this, from the back of the meter all the way through the building, you can replace that pipe work under the Form 4 system. So obviously currently you'd be up for a permit, those sorts of things, having lead trenches open, get inspections. This can be all done as long as you just go and do the work. When you finish the work, it's just a matter of putting the paperwork into the PIC. And the only exemption there is other than extending or removing a fire service. So anything to do with the fire service, if you're extending or removing a fire service, would be compliance accessible work, which makes common sense because you're dealing with a fire installation. So number 3, work necessary for extending, removing a fire service if it's associated with a building development approval. So if there's a DA on a property to extend, remove a fire service, you can actually perform it as minor work. You don't have to go through the full compliance side of things, which is, once again, that's quite a common thing. Like for schools, you might extend a hydrant system. It can all be done under the minor work side of things, and as constructed, drawn up later on. So from that perspective, you don't have to go and get a hydraulic consultant to do the design. You don't have to lodge an application. You can just go and do the work. Once the work's completed, put the Form 4 into the PIC, with the payment of $25. Number 4, work necessary for extending, altering, replacing, removing existing sanitary drainage other than a combined drain. So we've clarified that there to a Class 1 and 10. So as I've already said, on a Class 1 and 10, you can perform sanitary drainage work on the property. Okay, so anywhere within that property, you can alter, extend, remove the drainage system. And when we're talking about drains also, obviously in the past the plumbing inspectors come along and actually drawn up the as constructed drawing. So when you're doing drainage work, what we're asking you guys to do is go to the local government, get a copy of the existing as constructed, because it's an existing building you're on, there should be an existing as constructed. If there isn't, we'll have a template which we want you to follow. But to keep it as simple as we can, what we want you to do is, if you're doing an extension to a bathroom, All you have to do is just use that as constructed drawing and add on to it, and then submit that as constructed with your Form 4 to the PIC. So we're not asking you to redraw the whole thing. As long as you go and get the ASCON, add to it, alter it, whatever you have to do, and we'll have specific notes on how to do that. So obviously the as constructeds in the past, I know councils have had quite a few issues with the way we want it done, so this is the most simple way we thought we could get it done. Rather than redrawing the whole thing, just add on to it.
Phil,
Yep.
just quickly, council, do you have many combined drains in Cairns? You do? So they would just contact the council and ask whether this particular one had a combined drain on it? Good, okay.
Yeah, so the combined drain's the exemption there. So make sure if you're doing work on a combined drain, it's fully accessible. Obviously, if you're adding fixtures to a combined drain, it may overload the system, so it's critical that that gets assessed through the council. So moving on to number 5 there, work necessary for replacing, altering, removing existing sanitary plumbing on a building classified as 2 to 9. So when we say sanitary plumbing, that's everything above the slab. Okay, so that's your sanitary drains, your water supply. So if it's above the slab, you can perform that work on your 2 to 9s, which is anything from a school to a block of flats, whatever it is. So no drainage in those properties. Once you do the drainage work, obviously the whole thing then becomes full compliance accessible work.
Is that still the same class as before? Like you're saying, the emergency works and all these other aspects, is that the same conditions under the 2 to 9s?
Exactly, yeah. Now number 6 there, work necessary for installing, replacing, removing a temperature control device, which is your mixing devices, your tempering valves, those sorts of things. So if you're replacing, removing or installing those sorts of things, it's a Form 4. The reason we're asking for Form 4s on those particular ones, we have to guarantee that it has been actually set to 50 degrees. Not that we're going to say that the plumbing inspector will come and audit that, but we need you to actually guarantee that it has been set. There's been a significant case in Townsville where there was no tempering valve at all, but a young child died through scalding. So on those sort of things, we've got to put checks and balances in place to make sure when you're installing those devices, they're installed correctly and they've actually been tested. And the other one there is installing, replacing, removing a water heater. Now that's any type of water heater. So whether it be gas, electric, solar, heat pump, whatever it is, if you're installing, replacing one of those items, it's a Form 4 right across the board. Once again, the reason we're asking for Form 4s for every hot water heater, unfortunately compliance with hot water heaters is one of the biggest headaches that we have. It's unfortunate, but yeah, compliance with hot water installations is generally not the best. And as we've found with our solar endorsements, it's improved quite significantly compared to what it was a couple of years ago, but we're still a little way to go. Testable backflow devices. So you can install, replace, remove a testable backflow prevention device. Obviously, when you're installing, removing, obviously the removing side of it, replacing a backflow device, you will have to perform a test as well. So what we're saying is the Form 9 still goes to the council as you have done at the moment, but the Form 4 will come to the PIC. Okay? So just keep that one in mind. When you're testing a backflow device, the Form 9s go to the local government, not to the PIC. Number 9. Now we've included this one because we've had lots of complaints in relation to rainwater tanks. So your partially buried or fully buried rainwater tanks, currently it's a testable backflow device that has to be installed. So what we're going to do, Chris is going to amend the Queensland Plumbing and Wastewater Code to allow the use of a dual check with atmospheric port. So that's basically your dual check with the vented port that can actually release the water. It's a non-testable device. We've done a risk assessment and believe it's okay, fit for purpose. But that way it alleviates, A, the cost of the valve, that's significantly less, no more testing annually for the homeowners, and obviously significant cost.
Yeah, also the council doesn't need to keep a register of those. Just to let you know that the Queensland Development Code has been amended and the new version will also commence on the start date of November the 1st in relation to the installation of rainwater tanks, and there's an amendment in there that allows you to put that valve in for the installation of a rainwater tank instead of a testable backflow prevention device should you decide.
Mm-hmm. So just bear in mind, guys, it's only for rainwater tanks, okay? Partially buried or buried rainwater tanks, you can now use this valve. So if you get called to a property to remove a testable device and put one of these in, obviously it'll just be the Form 4, and also, yeah, so the Form 4 will cover both. On the Form 4, you can tick 2 boxes. So you're removing a backflow prevention device, and you're also installing one of those. So it'll be 8 and 9, you'll be ticking on your Form 4. We're not asking you to pay for it twice, just tick it twice on the one Form 4. Number 10, work necessary for replacing a grey water treatment plant on a Class 1 building. So that's only for a Class 1 building, not any other building other than a Class 1. Now, no grey water domestic treatment plants aren't too popular. I think there's only about 20 that I know of that have actually been installed in the whole of Queensland. So, but if the need be to actually replace one of those systems, you can do it under the Form 4 process. Once again, it's got to be like for like. You can't have a 600 litre grey water system and go and replace it with a 2,000 litre system. It's got to be exactly the same capacity. Number 11, installing fixtures in a building classified as a Class 1 building. So we're giving you an unlimited hand here to install as many fixtures as you wish into a Class 1 building. Obviously the standard dwelling is your basic main bathroom and ensuite, but there will be larger homes which may have 3 or 4 bathrooms. We're not putting any limits on how many fixtures you can put in. So yeah, if you want to put 30 fixtures into a dwelling, that's fine. But all can be performed under this. Now the whole key to this whole system is the word install and relocate. So if you're installing something new or relocating something within the property, it's a Form 4. And as I'll mention in a minute with the minor work side of things, you can replace stuff as long as you're a licensed plumber with no paperwork, and I'll go into a bit more detail in a second. So number 13, work necessary for installing, relocating a fixture in a building classified 2 to 9. Now we've capped that as a limit of 1 to 2 stories. Main reason being, when you go into your high rises, once you get above level 2, if you go and put 30 fixtures onto a branch of a fully modified system, you're going to unbalance the system in a big way. So we're capping that, because generally the first couple of stories will just be elevated pipework. So obviously it won't affect the principles too much. But once you get above that second story, you're back into full compliance. Number 14, installing, relocating a fixture in a building classified of so the thing 14 is about your shed and your garage. So once again, you can install a fixture into a Class 10 dwelling as long as there's existing plumbing to it. If there's no plumbing to a garden shed, a garage, it's still Form 1 compliance. But if there's already a sink there, you can go and put a toilet, a basin, whatever. Must have existing drainage and water to that building. And the last two there are just seal-offs. Now, I'm not sure if Cairns Regional Council actually enforce seal-offs with the demos and those sorts of things, but you can actually seal the water off at the water meter and at the sewer connection under the Form 4 process. I know down south they enforce it quite heavily, so whenever you're sealing off a drain, they want you to put a Form 1 into the council, wait your 20 days for approval, get the inspection, and they'll give you a compliance permit. So this way you can actually go and do the work. Once you've completed the work, put the Form 4 into the PIC. So that's the 16 schedules. Is everybody up to speed with that? You may?
Just a quick question. When you're doing the extending, altering, or putting new stuff in, and you're going to put in a Form 4, do the plumbers also have to issue an as-constructed drawing to you after they've done the work?
Only if you're doing drainage work. So if you're not doing any drainage work, there's no as-constructed drawing required.
And if another plumber comes along to get that, they actually have to notify the PIC and get that information?
No, what they can do, they can go to the local council as they do at the moment. The councils have access to our database, so it's just a matter of going to your local council as you would at the moment and requesting an ASCON, and they can just, as you would log on to the internet, they can just get straight on and give you that information, no problems at all.
Is there any possibility of us accessing directly to get that information?
Look, at this stage, it's just quarantine just for the councils. We don't want sort of a situation where you can find out Joe Blow how many Form 4s he's done. So under your system, you'll only see all the forms that you've ever done. Same with the council, they'll only see the Form 4s within their area. They can't see anything outside of the area, but the PIC will have access to the entire system. Now I'll just go through the exclusions. So these are the things you can't do under the Form 4 process. So anything to do with the dual restricted water supply. So I'm not sure if there's any recycled water within Cairns. I know down south and Coomera, those sort of areas, there is. So if you're doing work on a property, existing property that has dual restricted water supply, it's always going to be Form 1 compliance, no matter what work you're doing on that property. Same with trade waste. If you're doing any work connecting to a trade waste, it's full compliance accessible work as well. Combined drains, as Chris has already mentioned, any work on a combined drain, full compliance accessible work, Form 1. And then we move on to the alternative solutions. Now, when we say alternative solutions, the Plumbing Code of Australia, which I mentioned before, clearly states how you actually submit a alternative solution. You just can't sort of rock up and say, oh, it's an alternative solution. You've actually got to submit that to council to be assessed. And they're going to want documentations. They want you to basically prove other than the deemed to satisfy, which is the Australian standard. So if you're working outside of the Australian standards, and you think, look, I've got this new way of doing things, as long as you can prove that through the alternative solution, it can be accepted through council and you can use that rather than the Australian standards. But in saying that, there's different levels of qualified person. So for example, low level risk, a plumber could do that alternative solution. When you're going into medium, a hydraulic consultant. When we're going to high risk, it's probably going to be an engineer that's got to sign off on that. So just be aware, alternative solutions do exist, and if ever you have to go through one of the processes. One of the more common ones at the moment is to do with sustainability and water saving, that sort of thing. So rather than using rainwater tanks, they might use an alternative to that. Might be bore water or grey water, whatever it is. But it can be formulated through that system, but it can't be done under the Form 4 system. Now, plumbing and drainage work, we'll just move on there. Now, we'll just go through the categories. So this is probably the most critical part that you really have to get your head around, is the minor work sort of things. We've really given you guys a lot to do with the minor work. Stuff you can do as long as you're a licensed plumber, there's no paperwork involved whatsoever. Okay, so minor work, you must be a licensed plumber, okay? It's fully regulated work. If you're not a licensed plumber, you cannot perform minor work in the schedules. Unregulated work is pretty self-explanatory. Anybody can do unregulated work. And I'll go through unregulated work as well, just because a lot of guys don't actually understand what unregulated work does cover. So we'll just go through the minor work. Everybody got that schedule up? Now, number one is a carryover from the existing minor work. So work necessary for replacing, maintaining, repairing or removing a fitting or a fixture. So for example, if you're doing a bathroom renovation, you can pull all the fixtures out in that room. As long as they're going back in the same spot, there's no paperwork involved whatsoever. No Form 4. It's only, as I said before, if you're installing a new fixture or relocating a fixture in that room, it's a Form 4. So pulling everything out, it's going back in the same spot, no paperwork, as long as you're a licensed plumber. Now, number two, the work necessary for repairing a broken or damaged pipe. As I said before, a broken or damaged pipe would be quarantined to just that section there. We're not saying 40 metres of drainage pipe is broken or damaged, okay? Some scenarios it may be, but generally a broken or damaged pipe, and I think Chris has got a pretty good example of what a broken or damaged pipe is. We're not we might actually look at changing this reg to put a limit on it, because we just don't want it to get abused and that sort of nature.
Yeah, but the difficulty with this one was that what we wanted to try to do was take away the minimum lengths of pipework. Currently, under the schedule, you've got you've got 3 and 6 metres, depending whether it's drain or water supply. We wanted to do away with limiting the actual number. We felt that was unnecessary. Obviously, the moment we do that, then it then means that if you then replace even a small piece of pipework, it falls under the Form 4. So at the moment, repairing a broken or damaged pipe means repairing it in its current position, and I think I gave a little example earlier where somebody put a hole in a pipe, and you could go in and your way of fixing it would be to cut it and put a joiner in. That's repairing it and broken pipe. It's not cutting it back out a metre and replacing a whole length of pipe. If you do that, that's a Form 4. But we will have a look at that over the next few months and see how that goes, because obviously we don't want to have a situation where you feel obliged to continuously putting in a Form 4 for something that's 3 inches long, okay? But at the moment, replacing any of the pipework would require a Form 4.
Okay, so number 3 is probably the most significant one of all. For the first time, we're saying you can install something without any paperwork whatsoever. So I'll just go through it. Work necessary for installing, replacing, maintaining, repairing or removing an apparatus. Now, what is an apparatus, you say? It's actually, we're given a definition within those guidelines you have there. So an apparatus is like a water meter, a water filter, a water pump, a cistern. All of those things can be, you can install those sort of things. As long as you're a licensed person, no paperwork required at all. So, for example, if you're doing a rainwater installation, you can put the rainwater pump in as long as you're a licensed plumber without any paperwork. The other big one there is obviously water filters. You can go and put water filters in. In the past, we've had a situation where it's unworkable at the moment, is that it's a Form 1 full compliance to install a water filter. Water filter might cost $200 and the council fees are like $600. So in those scenarios, we're not asking for any money whatsoever, no paperwork. You can just go and do the work. You're qualified people. You're more than capable of doing the work. As long as you're a licensed person, you can perform that work. So definitely get your head around what an apparatus is. I know in the definition of apparatus it does have water heater, but that obviously is overridden by the provisions here. So as I said before, all water heaters is Form 4, but apparatuses just have a look through what apparatuses are. All those things can be installed as long as you're a licensed person, no paperwork whatsoever. Then we move off into sealing up existing water services. So anywhere within the property other than the point of connection, which is the back of the water meter, you can seal off water pipes in that property. So for example, if you pulled out a toilet, you can seal off the water supply, and also under here you can seal off the waste pipe. So as long as it's not at the connection point, you can do it as a licensed person, no paperwork required. Fire hydrants and hose reels. You can replace fire hydrant heads and hose reels. Once again, as long as you're a licensed person, no paperwork whatsoever. Go and do the work without any dramas whatsoever. Unblocking pipes, and that's in a carryover as well. So unblocking any sort of pipe, whether it be a sanitary drainage pipe or a drainage pipe, can be performed as long as you're a licensed person. And like we get a lot of these maintenance guys running around wanting to unblock pipes. It's fully regulated work to unblock a pipe. So if you hear of any people doing that sort of work, please let us know and we can take some action. Work necessary for maintaining or repairing an on-site sewage facility. Obviously, to maintain an on-site sewage facility, you do need the endorsement of your licence, but all that work can be performed without any paperwork as long as you're a licensed person. Obviously, the service reports will still have to go to the local government as you do now, but we're not sort of defining that as minor work. It's as long as you are a licensed person, no paperwork, you can perform that work.
Yeah, Phil. Just expand a little bit on that. As you notice, we've actually put the term on-site sewage facility. It's not an on-site sewage treatment plant. So the definition of a facility can include an on-site sewage treatment plant and irrigation or trenches, but also a definition of an on-site sewage facility could be a septic system and the old grey pump-out well, or it could be a combined septic system along with irrigation and trenches. So you've never had this in there before. Basically, if you had to touch anything that was to do with a septic, you had to get a permit for it. We've now put that in as minor work. So if you're repairing or maintaining an existing system, it's just minor work. If you need to extend the trenches, if the trenches are stuffed and you have to put new ones in, that's a Form 1, because you'll probably need to have a soil test and then have to get approved by council. But if you think that you can repair the trenches by taking out what's in it, scarifying it, cleaning it out, putting a new material in, you're happy, you think that's suitable and will work, that's repairing and maintaining. Okay? So that's just minor work.
And obviously the grey water sign's exactly the same. So anything to do with the grey water facility, same sort of scenario. The last one there is automatic switching device. So installing, replacing an automatic switching device within the meaning of the Queensland Plumbing and Wastewater Code. So on your rainwater tanks, you can install a water switching device, replace it. As long as you're a licensed person, you can perform that work without any paperwork whatsoever. So anything to do like your pump, your water switching device, can all be performed as long as you're licensed, no paperwork. Now I'll just run through unregulated work, just so you understand exactly what people can do without a plumbing licence. So cleaning, maintaining ground level grates, traps on a sanitary drain. So basically just cleaning the grate. Replacing caps on the inspection openings can be performed by unlicensed people. Maintaining above ground or below ground irrigation system for disposal effluent from on-site sewage facility. The key word there, it's only maintaining. So that any sort of repair, replacement, all has to be done by a licensed person. Maintaining an on-site disposal area might be just flushing the lines, those sorts of things, but anything to do with actually repairing that system is all licensed work. So just remember that people can actually flush the pipe work, those sorts of things, as an unlicensed person. Now we'll move on to the water side of things. So installing or maintaining an irrigation system or lawn water system downstream of the isolating valve, tap or backflow prevention device. Now, unfortunately, the word irrigation, when everyone thinks of irrigation, probably just your lawn sprinklers. As we know in rural areas, irrigation is farms and those sorts of scenarios. So that's something that we're actually looking at addressing further down the track, is that some of the farm irrigation pipework can be 500 mils in diameter. So in that relation, that's a carryover, and we're going to address that later on. Replacing a jumper valve or washer for a tap. So just jumper valves can be performed by unlicensed people. Changing shower heads. And also the bottom washing for a toilet system can be performed by unlicensed people. And we've actually added there replacing the domestic water filter cartridge. Currently, would you believe you have to be a licensed person to change a water filter cartridge? So we thought that changing a tap wash is probably more technical than changing a water filter cartridge. So in those scenarios, we've included that with the unregulated sort of things. When you're installing a water filter, you have to be a licensed person, no paperwork, but to change the cartridge can be done by the homeowner. So everybody across the top of that one? Yep.
When you say they
No, if you're reseating the tap, that's actually doing something to it. That's a licensed plumber that does that. So we'll just go through, I'm just going to go through to the actual big checkbook that we've got for manual lodgement. So the electronic side of things is called PAS, it's the Plumbing Application Service. I'll just get through the book. And this is the booklet that you'll all receive very, very soon. Now this is, I must stress, is only for manual lodgement, okay? We don't want you doing a bit of manual lodgement and a bit of online stuff. If you wanted to stay full electronic, send the book back to us or put it in a drawer and never use it again. This is just for guys who don't like computers and would prefer to do it manually. Obviously the disadvantage of doing it manually, it's $35 rather than $25. The reason why it's an extra cost is because we've actually got to have someone physically put that information into the computer system. Now, if you look at the actual checkbook situation there, this is actually what the Form 4 is now. It's that simple. We've tried to keep it as simple as we possibly could because we don't want you guys writing diaries on Form 4s. All you have to do is supply the address of your property, your details, your licence number, sign it and date it, and tick 1 to 16. So the 1 to 16 lodges up with your schedule there. So as we said before, replacing a backflow device, you just tick number 8. That's all you have to do. And then the check, the bit of paper comes to the PIC and you're done. Now obviously one requirement we are asking to is that we're requiring that you give a copy of the Form 4 to the homeowner. So with the manual lodgement system, there's two parts over there. One part goes to the homeowner, one part goes to the PIC, and a little butt section you'll keep for your records. So you've fulfilled that obligation. With the electronic side of things, there's two ways to do it. You can email it or print it off, and a lot of guys are just including it with their invoice, and away it goes. So just bear in mind, you have to give a copy of the Form 4 to the homeowner. The reason we're asking for that is that in the future, when people get plumbers to do work at their property, they'll say, look, the last plumber gave me this bit of paper, and if you're not going to give me a bit of paper, are you really a licensed person? So it'll sort of protect your trade that way. And if they're not getting the bit of paper, it's obviously a person who's not a licensed person who's doing the work. Yeah, mate? Yeah, look, obviously the cost can be borne by the owner. We do give you an invoice, so you're not just thinking of a number and charging it on the invoice. Generally with an invoice you have your labour, material plus the PIC charge, and you have that invoice you can actually give to the homeowner. Oh look, that's your business, you run your business however you like. But it's a fairly simple system. I couldn't imagine too time consuming. The current Form 4 system is exactly the same. If you're doing full compliance, instead of the Form 4, you'd be up for lodging applications, calling for inspections, all sorts of things. So there's massive time savings that way. Well, we can't do it for free. Like, there's obviously a cost borne. Well, hang on, just one at a time, guys. Like this is, we're not here to rip off the plumbing. Let me explain to you where the money goes, okay? Out of the $25 that we receive for electronic lodgement, $15 goes back to the local government so they can perform their audit inspections, okay? $10 of that is for us to administrate the system, okay? We're not here to rip off plumbers, make $1 million. It's not what we're about. That money will then be used to go back into the industry for training, helping out our apprentices. We've got a situation at the moment where the guys get to the Cert 4 and they're stuck in a situation where they've got to pay up to $8,000 plus spend 12 months of their life. We can use that money to help those guys out in those sort of scenarios. Yeah, mate? Yeah, but look, you've got to understand, currently there is a compliance obligation, okay? As a licensed person, you have an obligation to abide by the compliance within Queensland. Currently, let's be brutally honest, compliance with this sort of work is absolutely appalling. We know, for example, that 95% of this work is not being reported to council. That's why we've changed the system to make it as easy as possible for you guys to use and kept the cost as low as possible. Yep. GST is inclusive, yes.
Yeah, look, there is actually no GST. So what you charge on your bill is your choice. But there's no GST actually on the fee that we charge. Just clarify that again, look, the $35 as well, the extra money covers the ability for our staff, obviously we will have to input the information electronically, plus it also covers the book. So if you do want to use that manual version and use the books, and you order more books, you don't get charged for the book. That's built within the cost.
When an audit is requested, I assume the plumber would have to meet the inspector on site? Or is that not necessary?
No, it's not necessary. No, the plumbing inspector would contact the owner or occupier of the building. They can, the legislation's been written that says that they have to get permission from the owner to obviously to enter the property. And what we're expecting is that the plumber, they might contact the plumber and ask the plumber to be there, but you don't have to be for an audit.
Because I was just getting around to where to allow something like that.
No.
Copy of that Form 4 we have to give to the owner. I mean, a lot of times we don't know who the owner is.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, let's just clarify. If it's actually, although we say the owner, it does say owner or occupier. Plus also, if you are doing work, and a lot of guys I'm sure do work, maintenance work through the real estate agents, you can actually give a copy of that Form 4 to the real estate agent if he's the person working on behalf of the owner. So the Act just makes it clear, because they're their agent and they're basically renting the property out on their behalf, you can give that Form 4 to the real estate agent. Obviously, if you've got an owner that's in Japan or India, the last thing we expect you to do is to be sending it there.
I think what you're saying about not looking up plumbers, well, another side of the equation, what you've done towards the consumer, to educate them and advise them, I'm a consumer, dealing with my plumber, and I'd like to give him some fees and so on, but I know nothing about it. My first education of this was Monday or Tuesday this week. I immediately contacted my plumber, come and speak. My question is, not here to rip off the plumbers, but what have you done about educating the public towards this process?
Yeah, look, we have a quite an in-depth communication plan that we've got developed, and part and parcel of that we hope is going to be local radio and newspapers. That's going to be coming up very shortly. We try to bring it as close as we can to the start date because it's fresh. If you do that 6 months back, people have forgotten after a month. So.
We're looking at something coming in next week on the 1st of November, and it's this week that I become aware of it. I look after a number of properties, I look after a number of apartments and units. And here I am, I'm accountable to owners, accountable to tenants and so forth, and know nothing.
Well, obviously, we're trying to get as much communication out as we can between now and the 1st. We have been a little bit limited. We have been limited, unfortunately. Obviously, there's been a change of government, and the change of government has obviously caused a little bit of delay in what we can and can't do. And obviously, what we've been trying to do is work the best we can around that with the funds that are available for us to do that. But with the communication plan that we've got, once we get it approved, and we've had it approved, our intent is to try and get us out to the local media as much as we can, and also use the local government. Local government we've been contacting and asked, because they usually have newsletters that they put out to all the constituents in the area. We've asked if they can put information out there. We've also contacted and arranged with obviously the plumbing suppliers. That doesn't necessarily benefit the consumer directly. If you don't go to the plumbing suppliers, I accept that. But obviously there's limited media opportunity for us at the moment, as far as, unless we went on a massive television campaign, which I'd love to do, but obviously funding to do that is something we don't currently have.
Look, just one thing with all this. The primary reason we paid for this meeting ourselves was to make sure that us plumbers can understand how we're going to comply with the legislation first. We have an open question time later on where we can ask the sort of questions you're asking at this moment. At this part of it first, we'd like to get through as much information as we can, because us plumbers, if we don't comply, are going to have heavy fees and heavy penalties associated with it. So if we can keep the questions associated with our complaints or what we're unhappy with, there will be a time for that. But we need to know what we need to do to comply as plumbers, or we're going to get heavy fines, all right? So we want to know first. So we just let the guys actually focus on getting the information that we need to comply first. We'll then have an organised question time. We've had heaps of questions from plumbers themselves, which we're going to ask directly, and they have an opportunity to ask, and then we'll have an open question time afterwards, okay? Not saying you don't, we want you to put your points forward, but just in an organised format, okay?
Yep, at the back there.
Yeah.
If we chose annual reports that you're sending out, if a plumber's giving an invoice for the job and being paid for that job on the day, but they want to lodge it electronically, can they give a copy of a handwritten one to the client straight away?
No, look, that's what I said before. You can't do both. You can't do part paper and part electronic. With the electronic side, which I'll explain to you in a second.
I don't need sending that copy, the written copy in. I mean, still do it on the actual
Yeah.
do the lodgement, and then send another
Yeah.
copy of that to the
I'll explain in a second. Basically, if you've got a device that can access the internet, you can do it there and there. You can actually send it. You can actually send an email to the client on the spot. Okay. But look, yeah, look, just let us finish the presentation. Lots of people here come to listen to other things. Let's just get past this for a second. Okay. So let's just talk about the as constructed side of things. Okay. Here's a good example of an as constructed drawing. Okay. Now, obviously, this is something that you've got from council. It's got the drawing there. With the dotted line is the existing stuff that we put in there. The stuff in the right-hand corner here is the extensions to the property. That's the sort of example that we're looking at to be submitted with the as constructed drawing. Easily downloaded and uploaded into the computer system. Or if you wish to do a paper side of things, you can just put it in an envelope with their Form 4 back to the PIC. You know, well, if you're doing drainage work, I wouldn't imagine how you'd find out where the drainage is without it. Well, we've got a council. How much does it cost for us constructed, guys? Okay, it's $48. Other councils are for free. Well, look, as I've already said, mate, if you're going to do drainage work, how would you possibly know where the drainage is without one? So it's a cost that you bear at the moment. This is an as constructed drawing. You've extended the drain. We're not talking about repairing the pipe work. You don't need to send it as constructed for that. You're extending or altering the pipe work.
An as constructed plan to you.
Exactly.
Where do we get that as constructed plan from?
From the local government.
How much does it cost?
Well, at this particular council, it's $48.
Okay, we have to incorporate that in.
Exactly. Yes. Of course you do. Yeah.
I can't see how it's added stuff.
I don't see how
I
you
don't
make your
understand
point.
the added stuff. If you are doing underground drainage now, what do? Do you go get an as constructed now? Because you go pay, yeah, you do. You just said yes. So if you do, you'd have to pay the money. We're not asking you to pay any more money than what you're paying now if you have to go get an as constructed. We don't control the fees and charges for councils. Some councils are dearer, some are free, some are different prices. But realistically, if you decide to go and do drainage now, I shake my head. How can you not go and get a copy if they've got one of an as constructed? If you're installing new drainage, so you don't need to do an as constructed. We're saying if you're adding, if you're extending or adding, you have to put. You do, but you don't have to put an as constructed in unless you're adding and extending the pipework. And if you're putting new drainage in, so if you're putting new drainage in, well, that's the thing. If you're just repairing it in existing place, why would you need a new as constructed? It's not moved, is it?
Right, is it back there?
Something falls back on us, all right, somewhere else down the drain. You're going to say, well, it must be one.
Well, hang on a second. Let's just be clear, right? We're all professional people in this room. We hold plumbing licences. We are business owners. We're contractors. We're not just some idiot that rolled out of high school and said, hey, I'm going to do a bit of plumbing. You are running a professional business, okay? You're not just sort of, like I said, some idiot off the street. You're running a professional business, okay? Part of your business, you have to pay taxation. You have to pay wages. You have to do insurances, all those sorts of things. You just can't throw your hand in the air and say, oh, look, I can't pay the insurance because it's going to cost me $10 to put the form in. Your obligation as a professional person who's in the plumbing industry to be fully compliant with the Plumbing and Drainage Act. And at the moment, this is why the system's here, is to make sure that the compliance level is here. We're not here to find plumbers. All we want is the compliance levels to be a lot better than what it is at the moment. And at the moment, it's, as I said before, it is really bad. So I think your argument is the fact that you've actually got to put some paperwork in for the first time rather than having to well, look, running a business these days, as you all know in this room, if you run a business, running a business is not a cheap thing to do, okay? Petrol can go up in a flash. You'll be up for an extra $20 a week just in petrol. Like, we're not asking for an exorbitant amount of money. We're not ripping off the industry. This is all about you guys being compliant. And our job is to help you guys to be compliant. We're not here to fine you. We're here to help you move into the new process. What's happened in the past is the past. Moving forward, we want compliance to happen. Other states of Australia, for example, Victoria, to put a Form 4 into Victoria, it's $65. We're $25. So we are doing it bare bones. We're not making any money out of this. Any money we do make will be put back into the industry. You know?
What happens if you go to the council and you can't get an as-constructed?
Yep, this is why I've got this drawing up here. So if you can't get an as-con or they don't have an as-constructed drawing, there's an actual template in your manual that you'll be able to use. So the most important part of any as-constructed drawing is the street orientation. If you don't put the street on there, we won't know where the house sits on the property. You know?
So, just, I haven't got a template in front of me, you know what I'm saying? So, would I then just draw the section that I've added on, or am I going to require?
No, look, obviously we don't want you to draw the whole drain, just the section that you've added on. So, and that's all you have to do. Okay, so all you have to do is just identify the point that you've actually hooked onto, which would just be a tie off the building or the boundary, and you just go from that point on. We're not actually to go and camera the whole drain to find out where the rest of it is, just the new work that you have performed.
And the most important thing of that is your dimensions, is your depths and dimensions. We're not after pretty drawing. It doesn't have to be perfectly with a ruler. The most important thing of those is your dimensions, because anybody coming back later on, if they want to do some work, need to be able to work off dimensions.
Yeah, mate? Yep. So if they're putting the pool in, and like up the as instructor didn't show the new. So you're putting a new pool in, all the pools there already. Okay, so the as instructor you get from council is incorrect. Is that what you're saying? It doesn't show the diversion around the pool? Okay, so this is a typical example. Obviously, the previous plumber didn't do the right thing and get a Form 1, didn't get it inspected. He's just gone and done the work, and you've rocked up and obviously there's a pool there now, and you've got no idea which way it goes around the pool. So that's something as a plumber, obviously, whether you use drain locating, whatever you want to do, to determine which way that drain went. But non-compliance of previous work, it's difficult. Something you have to explain to your customer, look, I don't know which way this drain goes, but I do have devices that are going to cost a bit of money to find out where it is. Yeah. All right, so is everybody up to speed with the as-constructed side of things? Now, I just want to talk about the audit side of things. Obviously, there's two different types of audits. The audits the PIC will be doing, and the audits the local governments will be performing. As I said before, the money that we get received for the $25, $15 of that goes back to the council so they can perform their audit inspections. So local government will audit licensees to make sure that it's been performed to a correct standard. So as I said before, we're all qualified plumbers. We know what the standards are. Anybody taking shortcuts, you do it at your own risk. So they'll be doing the audits. We'll receive funding from us, as I've said, and they may target certain categories of work. Now, I know myself, probably the highest risk out of all of that schedule is probably backflow prevention devices. So if I was a local government, that's probably the first one I'd be auditing, just to make sure that A, it's the correct device for the zone. We don't want low hazards or double checks going into high hazard areas. As a plumber, as you know, you can install backflow prevention devices without the endorsement. It's only for the testing side of things. So it's critical that you actually assess that job properly if you're installing a backflow prevention device into a new building. So both local government and the PIC will monitor compliance levels and conduct audits as necessary. So where plumbing work is found to be defective, the local government may issue a notice. Now, this is the current powers they have at the moment. If they do an inspection, they will issue you a notice, an information notice, clearly explaining what the defects on the property are and what has to be fixed up. Now, currently it's only 48 hours to respond to a defect notice. We've increased that to 5 business days. What we're saying to the guys is, look, we all make mistakes. Occasionally you might get an audit, it may fail. If you can't make it within that 5 business days, please contact the local government. They're all very reasonable people. If you need an extension of time, just say, look, I'm down at Townsville at the moment, I can't get back for 2 weeks, is it okay I address that within 3 weeks? They'll say, look, no problems at all. But if you just forget about it, throw it over your shoulder and say, don't worry about it, obviously at that point you might be liable for some sort of penalty. But communication's key, same with us. If you need any extension, just pick up the phone, talk to us. If you don't tell us what's going on, we're not psychic, we can't work it out for you, but just talk to the councils. 20 penalty units, so a single penalty unit at the moment is $110. But that's the maximum amount too, so a PIN would be a lot less than that. So the notice must state the action required, and as I've said, the 5-day period must be accompanied by an information notice. Now, if you get an information notice and you believe, okay, I did install this correctly, the plumbing inspector's got it wrong, you do have the option to go through the appeals committees, okay? You have 28 days to lodge that appeal, and there is a cost of around $300 to do that. Obviously, for smaller jobs, you may think that's unreasonable, but if it's a job worth thousands of dollars, and you think, look, it's going to cost me $10,000 to fix this, it may be well worth your while to actually go down that path. But that option is to you. A lot of guys may never use it, but you do have that option if necessary. Licensees can still arrange assessment with local government, as we said before. If you don't feel comfortable, you can still at any stage through the whole project, whether it be drainage, whatever it is, get assessment through local government. It's an offence not to comply with the notice unless the person has a reasonable excuse. Now, a reasonable excuse is not, nobody told me, okay? It's got to be of some sort of substantial quality, like, for example, if your wife's pregnant. We don't want to hear, oh, nobody told me, so that's my excuse. It's not going to fly in a court of law, so. Now, the PIC investigators and local government officers are able to issue PINs. Now, this is what we can do at the moment. There's no change to this. Some of the things we can issue PINs for is non-compliant work, work performed without approvals, and work performed by unlicensed people. Now, in the last 12 months, we've issued over 300 fines to unlicensed people performing plumbing work in Queensland. Okay, and that's right through the whole of Queensland. I believe there was about 25 in Cairns alone. Yeah.
What type of classification is unlicensed work?
So unregulated work. So if they're performing plumbing work, which is regulated work, as we said.
No, sorry, an unlicensed person, sorry. Would that be apprentices doing work?
Not necessarily, but an apprentice is supervised, it's fine. An unlicensed person is a person who doesn't hold a plumbing licence. Okay? So, as I said before, real estate has been our main focus this year. We've really attacked the real estates. We've got a lot of complaints from plumbers, even homeowners, about real estate agents sending out handymen to do plumbing work. It's one of the things as a plumber myself, I really hate unlicensed people charging money to do plumbing work. We're never going to stop the DIY guy having a crack. That's always going to be there. But people charging money for plumbing work, they're the guys we've got to rub out of the industry because they're taking work off you guys. And like I said, over 300 fines this year, and the majority of those to do with real estates. So, he does. And like as I said before, we've spent the last probably 18 months training and bringing the plumbing inspectors up to speed so they can actually issue PINs. And in a lot of cases, we are based in Brisbane, we're aware of that. We can pick up the telephone, ring one of our inspectors in Cairns, and if need be, they can be out there fairly shortly and issue a PIN to an unlicensed person.
If you tell a plumbing inspector about someone doing, a handyman doing work, could he act on it?
He can, yes.
Should he, or?
Well, obviously, in smaller towns it can be difficult sometimes because you might have a beer with the guy on the Friday night. But we have the capability, we can come up here fairly quickly, and if it's a serious offence, investigate that and deal with that problem. Yeah. They can. Yeah, plumbing inspectors have very similar powers to us to issue penalties for those offences, yes. So just talk about the new PINs from minor work, you know?
How soon after, like, you lodge one of these, would you expect where it be checked on the board? Like, days, weeks, months, or can they go back years later?
This is for the...
The audit?
Oh, for us to do an audit. Okay, look, let's talk about the audit progress. I'll just go through it here. I'll just talk about the offences. Don't be frightened by these numbers, okay? Like I said before, we're not out to find plumbers. Our job is to assist you with the compliance side of things, okay? But there are going to be certain people that will not play the game, and we need the big stick for those sort of people. People make mistakes. Like, for example, this is a new system. We're not out there to, you know, you must have full compliance and have every form 4 dotted and cross the T's and dot the I's. If you're having issues, we can come to your property, sit down with you and actually explain exactly what the process is. The initial stages, I'm not saying we're going to go soft, but we're there to assist you guys. And we've only got these penalties in place because if we don't have them, there's no deterrent to break the rules. And places like Victoria don't have these sort of powers, so they can just go and do the work. They've got no powers to go and audit their plumbers to find out whether they're doing work or not. At least this way, you can guarantee that everyone in your area is doing the right thing. No longer can you say, Jimmy down the road's not doing the compliance, I'm trying to do the right thing, and I can't compete against him because of the fees and charges involved. So we'll just go through the offences. So failure by a licensee or employers to supply documents and information within 10 business days. So if one of our auditors requests information from you, you've got 10 business days to supply us with that information. Once again, if you can't make the 10 business days, please contact us. It's not a big deal. All of our auditors are very, very reasonable people, and they're there to help you with the whole thing. If you do get audited, don't feel as if you're in trouble. It's just part of the process, this new system that we've developed. So the auditor will come along and request the information for your books. You know?
What sort of information can they request on?
Okay, they can request significant powers under the new Act. They can request basically invoices for the last 2 years, any sort of documentation from plumbing suppliers, all those sorts of things. So, for example, if you ordered 20 toilets from Reece and we asked for the documentation, we'd have the Reece documentation and also your documentation. We'd ask the question, where did the 20 toilets go, that sort of thing. So, significant powers, but obviously, if you're doing the right thing, if you've got any trouble, let us know.
If we're found doing the majority of the work right, the system, but we've done a certain section wrong, what would you be likely to do?
Yeah, look, that scenario would be, as I said before, we're there to assist. So what we'd basically say is, look, this section you've done here, you might have thought would be minor work, but it's actually notifiable work. We'll give you 14 days to get the paperwork up to date. We're not about to go, bang, there's a fine for every form you didn't put in.
So we'd be more likely to have to backdate the paperwork on there if we were classified wrong.
As I said, we'll work with you on that, and I'm sure Chris is more than happy for that to happen. So.
Yeah, basically, I mean, my first and foremost is to get you guys doing the right thing. So if that were to occur, I'll be contacting and say, look, we found this issue that has happened. We'd explain it to you why, that you should have maybe put paperwork in, you didn't. And once you realise what you have to do, we'll ask you to do it.
I mean, it's one thing for one person who's doing, obviously trying to do the right thing, but it's obviously not being compliant to one thing. So people who just, who are not doing it, fuck it, basically.
Yeah.
So basically, we just want to know, if we're trying to do the right thing, we're going out of our way to understand it, how much leniency are we going to get through that?
Well, probably as I just said, my first approach, I always believe that everybody should be given an opportunity to fix something, whether it's work or whether it's paperwork. I'm a great believer in that. You should always have the opportunity to fix a mistake. We all make mistakes. And my first view and what I've told my staff is that certainly under this new regime, because it is new and it's quite comprehensive and you will misinterpret stuff, is that my personal view is that if we find that you're genuinely trying and you've just made an error, we will be trying to explain it to you and we will ask you to go and rectify it.
Sorry, the people that answer the telephone at PIC in the past have, what do you say, been a little bit uneducated. Is that going to change?
Yeah, well, look, we've just got a brand new contact centre put together with some staff. They're dealing mainly with your administration process. Anything that's technical that they can't understand, they will take the details and it will come to Phil or myself and we will contact you directly. But obviously, the part of that contact detail is dealing with the administration process. We still want you to contact council. You know, let's clarify something. This isn't about taking council out of this rate. We have a very close relationship with council and we intend to actually pursue that relationship stronger. We still think the plumbing inspectors do a fantastic job. And we still want them to be doing that role of where you can contact the council and get some technical advice. If they're not available, and sometimes they're not, you can contact us. We'll do that.
So if we actually want to get a compliance associated question, which is say we got the 20 toilets and we put 5 of them in one place and there's 7 in another place, etc., etc. Some of them may be replacing, some might be installing a new toilet. Would we bring up a certain person from the Ministry Council and get that question answered?
Yes, good.
And then where would we find that number?
It's our hotline number, which we've got up here. And it actually should be in your paper.
On the back of your form, guys, there's a 1-800 number. That form, if you've got any questions about lodgement of paperwork or technical questions, definitely give us a call on that one.
Yep.
Well, just the last one on the list there is a person must not state anything to an investigator, inspector, local government or PIC that the person knows is false or misleading. So that's basically borderline fraud. And we've got a few cases at the moment where I won't mention any names, but there's a certain plumber out there at the moment who's actually doing electrical work as well. He's signing documentations for the electrician using his licence number, you name it. So full spectrum. If you're going to get in the path of that sort of fraudulent activity, you will be found out, and it is a criminal offence, and it gets referred to the police. We don't deal with it, it goes straight to the police. So if you've got any questions, like I say, don't try and make documentation up. We can help out with it, so, yep.
Just one other question. What about, we were talking about the form 4 issues before the 1st of November, where we were saying that non-compliance has been atrocious. Are we likely to get fines associated with work or will we start from the 1st of November?
No, look, obviously with the new system we're focused on moving forward. As I said, what happened in the past is the past, we're moving forward. But in saying that, if we get a complaint from a customer, we're obliged to investigate that. And if one of the problems is that the compliance wasn't done properly, very often we go to a job, the plumbing is perfect. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever, but the plumber didn't do the compliance, and that's the bit he'll be hung up on and get a fine for. So, like I said, what happened in the past is the past. We're moving forward from this point, and
So primarily concerned with the person who compliance.
yeah.
So,
If you
Phil.
operate on a non-compliant system, say you go to install a hot water service and you remove the roof and find there's only half-inch piping supplied illegally to a certain fixture, are you obligated to replace that pipe all the way back through the system? When you
No.
do you?
No, like, you're only there to install that water heater. If you wish, you can notify the local government of the issue, but you're not obliged to rectify that work. You can mention it to the homeowner and say, hey, look, your pipe work's the wrong sizing. They may then say, look, let's fix it, but you're not obliged to fix that work.
Yeah,
It's not like gas. So
do I need to make note of that on a Form 4?
you can, yes.
You can.
And we encourage guys to take photographs. If you come across these really bad installs, everyone's got iPhones, just take a photograph of it. If you want to upload it onto the system, you can do that as well. And on the system, you can also put notes into the computer system as well. So when you upload your picture, it gets a little comment box, and you can just say, look, all I did was the hot water heater on such and such a date.
Now, I was a bit confused with the drawing with the automated system, with the electronic system. How do you go about making that on the computer?
Okay, so have you ever uploaded a document into an email? Okay, so look, if you're that green to computers, it's probably best to stick with the paper side of things. Well, it's up to you. Like, obviously, with computers are commonplace. Yeah, so if you want to sort of utilise the computer system, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of the current powers we do have is the PIC can take disciplinary action against licensees who breach legislation requirements or perform or fail to comply with technical standards. So that's critical. We're all aware that we work to Australian standards. If you're not complying with those Australian standards, you're actually in breach of what you do. So if you're not up to speed with that, like there's plenty of organisations that can bring you up to speed with Australian standards and those sorts of things. We encourage guys to look, when you finish your apprenticeship, don't stop training, keep going all the way through. Don't be one of those guys who haven't picked up a book in 40 years. It's keep on top of things. Like, we're all, as I said, professional guys here, and just keep evolving with it. But obviously more serious offences will be prosecuted, and it's very rarely that we would prosecute someone straight off. Normally it would be dealt with through the PIC first, but in rare cases, and there may be one fairly soon in relation to a certain guy that we may look at prosecuting him. And in those sort of cases, if it does go to prosecutions, they can actually do things like remove your plumbing licence forever. So, but like I said, it's very, very rare, but it's a high consequence for those sort of guys. Yep. No, look, I'll give you the background of the BSA. This is my favourite subject. I think everybody here is a bit sort of anti-BSA, would that be correct? Yeah. So they're actually doing a review of the BSA at the moment. So that comes out end of November. We don't know what the outcome will be. Ideally, from our point of view, we'd like to see it all come back together again. Yep.
Is there a consultation phase in that?
With the BSA sort of thing, it's not our thing, but obviously the BSA, as a licensee, you would think the BSA would be consulting with their licensees.
There has been, it's actually been up on the, I think on the actual website, where they've actually been going through a consultation period where people can put their comments in. And I think last time I looked at it, there was 120 odd submissions about the BSA, because obviously the BSA is covering a whole range of gambit of construction. So you can put those comments in on the BSA, and they will be considered. The report is due at the 30th of November, and that's when the government will make any decisions on any policy changes or what happens with the Building Services Authority, and whether we're involved in that, we have no idea at the moment. So yeah, look, it's a sort of watch this space and wait and see. We would love to get contracting back under plumbing. We think it should be under one-stop shop. We'd like to be the ones that are running it. But we don't know. That's a policy matter, and that's out of our hands.
Yeah, mate.
Going back to the audits.
Yep.
Like, you can audit plus the council.
Yeah. So there's two different types of audits. We're auditing the compliance side of it, and they're auditing the technical side. So.
How are they going to, we'll take the council first, who are they going to audit?
Okay, let's go through that process. The council, yeah, they're just doing 5%. So they're obliged to a minimum of 5%. So, for example, if they get 100 a week, they'll probably do 5 inspections. So, like I say, depending on what sort of work you do, you may never get audited for some time.
So if you've got a bloke who never puts any in, he's never going to get audited. You know,
Well,
No, he will.
he's the sort of joker that we can
You
catch
see-
out. So.
Well, because we audit the paperwork.
well, he's not going to get it. You've got to have your paperwork on.
Oh,
Exactly.
We'll go to his business. That's,
Exactly.
He might be like those groups all the time.
Well, fine, and then he'll give us that evidence, and that'll be fine.
Yeah.
But the reality is that we'll be looking at the administration side of things. We'll be checking, because that's why everybody's got a book as well.
You've got some plumbers there that've got 10, 15, 20 blokes working for them. They can have miles going in.
Yep. So you might have some that have none. If people just stick to brand new dwellings and just do new houses, they might not do anything. And that's no problem, because if we contacted them and said, look, we noticed we haven't put any Form 4s in, they might say, oh, yeah, we only do brand new dwellings.
But how do you determine who you pick on?
Oh, look, I mean, from an administration perspective, we will continuously look at the register and pull off reports, and that's why we've got it broken down to see what type of work's being done, how much of it's being done, and obviously that's from an admin, and we'll do general audits. Probably the BSA at the moment. I don't know whether you're audited by the BSA, but building certifiers. I can give you an example. Building certifiers tend to be audited by the BSA at random. And so what tends to happen is they send a letter out often to all the building certifiers and say, we're going to do an audit of building certification and you may be part of that audit. So we'll take a look at that sort of stuff, and we'll probably do it in areas and different types of work. Local government, when they go and do their audits, they will go on the system and they will look into their area, and they will then choose the types of work that they want to go target. So that will be totally up to them. We're not saying you must do anything. That's up to them to pick the ones they think is suitable. So I would assume in most cases they would run a report. They might, for instance, do a run report and put backflow prevention devices, and they'll have a list of all the ones that have been put in their area, and they might get the guys to go out and do an audit on those. So, but that's their choice. We're not sort of limiting them.
You're not putting everyone in a category, so you're going to fall out of that category, so you're going to get picked on tax bill.
no.
Absolutely not. Totally random.
It's like you would have to only do new work, you're going to believe him, mate.
Well, we'd probably ask for some evidence of that. That's not too difficult. He could give us the contact of the builder he does the work with. You know, we'll get that checked. If we think, yeah, that sounds fairly kosher, the guy's doing the work, seems to be doing it, why would we be doing anything else?
You might have done that, but that's a job worth
Well, and no doubt I'm sure that'll happen. But obviously, that's the gamble he's going to take, that we don't, because what tends to happen, and what's happening quite a lot at the moment, is you guys, and guys like you around you, are ringing us up and saying exactly that, especially with the handyman. I mean, you guys, you know, have helped us catch quite a lot of those guys. So we do rely on that. We can't, you know, it's fairly obvious if you think about it. Nobody really can, I can't say, well, that guy's going to go and burgle a house tonight. You know, we just don't know. You just, until it's done, it's only afterwards that you usually can catch it. And you catch it often by people like yourself and this gentleman here, like consumers here, that ring us up and say, I've had a guy come round to do some work for me and he won't give me a form. I was supposed to have a form. Or the work seemed odd. And we'll go and look at it. And we'll contact the council, and the council will probably come and have a look at it for you.
If the handyman gets caught doing chunky work, does the homeowner get fined as well? Because they employ this handyman to save money.
Yeah, no, usually not. We haven't found a homeowner yet. Well, I think the difficulty is it's determining who actually supervises. We don't believe that a homeowner in that circumstance, they usually shop around to try and get the best cheap deal like everybody else, and we're all trying to buy things. We can then take the handyman on. The only thing that will change is real estates, because it's my view and it's my interpretation of the legal precedent of that, is that if a real estate agent knowingly engages a handyman to do plumbing work, they're not the owner, and you can't turn and say, well, they didn't know, because they've been told. And I believe that we could take action against them for supervising. Now that would be a test case, but I wouldn't hesitate to run one.
Yeah, they'd be classified as directing the performance of work. So, yep.
We have.
Yep.
We've done several emails out. There's also on the 2nd of November, the Real Estate Industry magazine goes out to all theirs. There's an article in that. We've also sent articles off to the Real Estate Institute of Queensland. And I think, yeah, look, I mean, we've been to several. Phil can probably tell you about the recent one where he did Whole Street.
A lot of complaints from plumbers in Gympie. We happened to be up there doing an investigation. But me and another officer spent probably 3/4 of the day going to every real estate in that town. We clearly explained to them, gave them information on what regulated work was and what unregulated work was. Over the 2-week period, we were able to get information back from the real estates. We got onto 3 of their mailing lists, 3 of their newsletters, and we actually had plumbers within the region actually saying for the first time the real estates are actually calling us up to do plumbing work. So if you're having similar issues here, we can definitely organise a time and a date to actually go in and target most of the real estates. Yeah. Resorts? Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, if that's an issue up here, we don't mind sending a couple of officers up for a couple of days and target some key resorts. That's fine. Yeah, and like I say, these aren't just sort of homeowners having a crack. These are guys getting paid to do that work.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what we have to snub out.
Yeah, we've got a couple going on at the moment actually down in southeast of Queensland, where we've picked up a couple of real estates, and we've got one case at the moment. I can't go into too much detail, but we've actually got about 10 years invoices off one of the real estates for a handyman, and he had a gas licence, but he was doing plumbing, and my guys just like you dobbed him in, told us. And we did the document request. They balked at it, didn't want to give it to us, and then we read the right act to them and said that that's an offence not to do it, and that is an offence now in the legislation not to do it. And they obviously realised it wasn't worth them paying huge fines to try and protect somebody that was unlicensed. And we ended up the last 10 years, it was a pile that big, and we went through it, and about that much of it had plumbing work in it. And that's going through prosecution at the moment.
Yeah, and bear in mind, in those sort of scenarios, sometimes we're limited with our powers, but other organisations like the BSA have significant powers. So, for example, if you issue an invoice for plumbing and you don't have a BSA licence, it's a $2,000 fine per invoice. This particular person Chris was talking about, 350 invoices, we refer that to the BSA. You can imagine the sort of, they're going to prosecution rather than fining them $700,000, but that's the sort of thing that these guys can be up for. And we don't mind referring that to other agencies if we don't have the powers to sort of snub them out. Yep.
Is there some sort of paperwork we can attach to our invoices from the 1st of November that we can send to our real estate and stuff, like a documentation?
Oh, look, if you wish, we've done it in the past. I think recently with Paul Bates, we sent information to every real estate in Cairns, or it's already been happened. So.
Well, I actually went to all the real estates.
Okay. Now look, we worked with Paul and he gave us a list of or email addresses of every significant real estate that we could, and I actually worked with one of our officers with that. They probably sent out about 65 emails to every real estate within the area. But if there's some that we've missed, certainly let us know. We'll send the documentation to them.
If not, Mark, we can draft something up.
Yeah, mate.
Well, it would be very beneficial to be able to, because we've got 6 or 7 days, I mean, our clients have been notified roughly, but to actually have something we can actually stick to our invoices, explain to them what the law is and why it's been changed and what their actual responsibilities are from real estate.
Yeah, look, we're happy to draft that up and provide you copies.
Yeah, mate.
Shouldn't the fine for a handyman doing unlicensed plumbing work be more than $1,100?
It's a difficult one. Like not so long ago, it was $300, and when it went to $1,100, they squealed like you wouldn't believe. The problem is if we go too high with a pin, every pin we issue will be appealed, and we'll spend the rest of our life in court doing pin appeals. So I think $1,100 for now is probably a good mark. Bear in mind, we can issue a pin for every offence they do. So if we find 5, they get 5 pins, not just one. So.
And on top of which, we also have the benefit of the fact that currently at the moment, we automatically notify the BSA.
Because I mean, for $1,100, you're not going to clear them out.
Yeah.
No, no.
And we're going to get a $660 fine.
Yeah. See, we've got the powers now to request those invoices. If he's issued invoices for plumbing, he's in a world of pain. So. Yeah.
You're going back to the mixer. If the homeowner changes his own mixer, you have the power to find him.
We can. We didn't necessarily. Yeah.
Would you?
Look, we have the powers. Obviously, if it was a significant health and safety risk, absolutely we would, yeah. For example, if he's...
Just went and changed the mixer.
Yeah, obviously, to do an investigation, that first of all, we need a complaint. So we need a complaint from whether another homeowner or plumber, whatever. And if you put a complaint into us, we are obliged to actually act on that complaint. And if the homeowner is found to have done the work, he will receive a fine for it. Yeah. Well, the guy at the back there, give him a go.
Quite a few years ago, I did duplex for these people. I'm going back quite a bit. A couple of stages when it was fit off, and about 6 weeks went by, and I rang them up and said, when do I fit that job? And they go, no, we've done it ourselves, it's easy.
Yeah, once again, I've had that same scenario. I'll give you an example. There was a guy in Bow Desert. The local governments were having the same sort of scenario. He told the plumber, no, you're not required any longer. By chance, the guy actually rang me up complaining, saying that the plumber wouldn't sign off on the job because he did the fit-off. And I said to him again, can you please, did you actually do the fit-off? And he goes, yes, I did. So we ended up pinning that guy because he made admissions that he did the work. Obviously, if you want to put a complaint in, we can, as I said before, we can follow through with that. And if the homeowner is found to have done the work, absolutely he'll receive a fine.
Well, that was the owner's son, and then he did another one again.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Who did you complain to at the time? Was it to us or to the council? Look, if you don't have any, like sometimes councils, I know up here, like in the past, they didn't have the ability to actually issue a PIN. They do now, and they might have been reluctant because sometimes they do have those constraints in place. But if you don't have any luck with the council, contact us. We can definitely help out. Yep. It is, absolutely, yeah. We're bound by the Information Act. If we give out your name, we could possibly lose our job, so we're not about to start doing those sort of things. So look, we'll just, has everybody receiving the PIC Connect via the email at the moment? Because one thing we're doing in the future is a lot of the documentation will be via email. We're moving into the 21st century. So if you haven't got this on your email, please call us. We're actually calling probably about 6,000 licensees at the moment who don't have up-to-date details. It's critical you have your details up to date. Yeah,
We're going to register at the back, and what we'll do is everyone must put their email addresses on it.
Yep.
We'll forward it up directly on the Plumbing Industry Council so they can add you on.
Yeah, but quite simply, how many guys are getting the email with the work at the moment? So that's good numbers in the room. Obviously, the guys who aren't, your email address isn't up to date or you haven't supplied us with one, just contact us and we can update it for you. Yep. You haven't got your licence back yet? Yeah. Okay, well, obviously, have you got an email address? Is it? Okay, look, come and see me after the meeting. I'll get your details. I'll get it updated for you tomorrow. Guarantee you. Yeah. Hey, while we're talking BSA, there's a couple of questions I get asked very often. As a licensed plumber, do I need a BSA licence to perform plumbing work? And unfortunately, if you don't work under a BSA licensed contractor, you can't perform any plumbing work whatsoever unless you have a BSA licence. So just be aware that's what the BSA's powers are. Also, if you're, for example, a provisional plumber and you're subcontracting to a BSA plumbing contractor, you can do that. It's called a sub-trade contractor, okay? So don't think that you have to be an employee. You can be a subcontractor to a BSA contractor. So just keep those in mind as well. Yeah.
Just as a hydraulic consultant, I'm going to have professional indemnity insurance for the designs that I do. Now that you're actually getting the plumbers to do their own design for stuff that's actually above sanitary drainage level, do these guys have to have PI insurance to cover the designs that they do?
Yeah, I think Chris has already got the answer for this one.
What we've done, no, they don't have to have their PI insurance. There's no mandatory requirement for PI insurance. That's their business choice. But what we have done is we've put a note in there that basically, in the guide, that's basically saying if you're undertaking a significant amount of installation in either a 2 to 9 building up to 2 stories, then our advice there is that they should consider whether a hydraulic design needs to be done. So that would be up to the licensee to take that view and have a look to see, well, if he's just putting one toilet on, he's probably not concerned. But if he went to a small shopping centre and they wanted to put a complete bank in, then obviously he would have to make that call as to whether he'd rather have something done hydraulically.
If he decides to do that, is he liable? Sorry, if he decides not to go with the hydraulic consultant who does the design, is he then liable?
Well, obviously the plumber will always be liable for his own work.
So he'll now be liable not only for the installation but for the design?
Well, if he's doing his own design, then he will be, yes. But that's no different from now.
Does that mean we actually have to have insurance? That's the question.
Well, there's no mandatory requirement under our legislation for you to have insurance. So You'd have to see whether your BSA insurance, what that covers for. Because in most cases, you'd have to be a contractor, so you'd have BSA insurance. See what I mean? So you might find that your insurance that you have, as your PI insurance, might cover you for that anyway. Yeah.
Don't want to keep it too long, guys, but on the board there, the HPW site, that's the site which will have all the information you ever need about Notifiable Work. So jump on that website. It's on your documentation there. And if you've got any questions you want us to answer, the 1-800 number, it's on your paperwork as well. So just bear in mind, try the website first. If you're having trouble, give us a call and one of our officers can help out. If you've got any complaints at all you want to lodge to the PIC, you can do it two ways. Contact the 1-800 number. We'll send you out a complaint form, or you can jump on the plumbers at QLD at Queensland.gov and just fill out the format online. You mean? Exemption for pensioners for...
You're talking about the Form 4s?
No.
Yeah, no. No, but that was one of the questions I think that was raised. Yeah, but no, we don't. Look, we just got a couple of other things.
Yeah. Look, what I'll do, guys, the next part of the presentation is the online lodgement of the system. So it only takes about 15 minutes. If you don't want to do the online side of things and you're happy with the information we're giving you tonight, you're more than welcome to leave. But if you want to stay around for 15 minutes, I can quickly run through this with you and just show what you have to do to actually use the online lodgement system. So it's up to yourselves. If you're happy with the information you've got, if you are leaving, just bear in mind two things, okay? Obviously, from now on, all the Form 4s come to the PIC, okay? Or I should say Form 4s. So all the Form 4s come to the PIC, no longer to the local government inspectors. If you want to get an inspection, it's still available to you. Just contact your local government. The other thing is the fee. So obviously, it's $25 electronically or $35 manually. Okay, so just keep those in mind. And when you're actually doing the work, just keep in mind two things. When you're installing something new or relocating something on an existing system, it's a Form 4. If you're replacing, it's as long as you're a licensed person, okay? So it's just keep that simple in mind. If you're installing something, relocating, Form 4, replacement, you just have to be a licensed person, no paperwork. Yep. Yeah. But like I say, I'm surprised it hasn't arrived yet. It can't be too far away.
Yeah, and they got sent by, the actual distributor sent them by postcodes, and it would appear that your postcode was one of the last postcodes, unfortunately.
Yeah, mate.
Just a couple of other quick things I just want to run through quickly. There was a couple of other information sheets that you had there, and I just want to run through them. There's the sheet there we took plumbing and drainage work, what needs a Form 4. These are some just simple stuff we try to put together to make it as self-explanatory as we can. This is in the copy of the PIC Connect, and hopefully the Connect will come out on Friday. So it's in the back in table form. But I think it gives you a good indication of the type of, certainly when you're doing maintenance work or small minor plumbing work, it gives you an indication of whether you need a form or don't need a form. So it's handy to hang on to that. And the other piece there is which is I run off today, and that was I just wanted to give you guys a guide of a comparison there of what is currently in the schedule and what the schedule will look like as far as the differences. And it's worth, if you sit down and have a little look at it, you can see that there's everything in red is what we've added for you to do. So it is quite a lot more that you can now do, certainly under a Form 4 process or under minor work that you couldn't do before. You either had to get a permit for it. Yeah.
I can answer that. It's 16,500.
Yeah.
One second.
Okay, guys, look.
Just before we go any further, okay, in regards to electronic lodgement, would people rather go through a open question time first, where you can ask your questions, or we open the questions which have been given to us by the plumbers, and then go, if we wish to, then go on to the electronic lodgement, or would you rather go to the electronic lodgement first, and then go on to questions? Questions first? Is that all right with you guys?
Yeah, that's fine.
Not a problem. I might just have a CD if that's all right. All right, these are all the questions which have been submitted by the plumbers. We've made a collection of them so that we can actually understand what you want, what one answered. Basically, this meeting was mainly designed for us so we can get the information we need to be doing what we need to do. So I'll just go through the questions. Which one are you guys going to answer?
Oh, I don't.
You can take the other one, pass it over
Why
here.
don't you come down there?
You can have a seat. There's quite a lot of questions, yes. There's about 40 questions which were handed over to us.
Okay.
Okay, go with the first question. How and why did you come up with a $35 fee for the Notifiable Works form, and where is this money going? All right, we'll
Okay.
keep going.
Happy with that. Well,
All right.
if you ask the questions, then let them tell us if they're happy with the answers they
it's
receive.
just simple basic questions which are all handed out. This is quite a few of them, so we'll just go through them. If you're happy, we'll just pass on from one to the other. Why wasn't the option for supporting local government utility operators in administering this directly not taken?
Okay, well, the PRC will now be just overseeing the lodgement of the Form 4 so that we've got one centralised system in place. The local government will still retain its other functions, looking at any inspections or audit technical work. So we haven't completely taken it over. What we have done is that we've decided that there's 74 different local governments across Queensland, 73, and then there's one in Weipa is counted as an addition. They all have different systems, and this come across when we was looking at the solar hot water rebate, and we found that the range of councils has such a huge range of how they receive paperwork. Some of the bigger councils, everything's electronic. Some of the smaller councils still take paper over the counter. We found some stashed in boxes, some via email that was in the plumbing inspector's email and he was on holiday, and some of the most craziest ones where the fax machine had broken down and nobody noticed it ran out of paper or something for a week. And so therefore when we did that tracking we thought, how can we alleviate this? And we thought, well why not look at the possibility of having just a centralised database so that you, doesn't matter where you work, and if you work across different regional boundaries, instead of you having to do different forms to different councils, you can put it into one place. Okay. And then what we've done is we've given council the access to that.
Okay, how are you going to administer the $15 of every lodgement form which has been put aside for local government compliance inspections, and what are your internal procedures for this to ensure the highest level of compliance with the plumbing draining code? E.g., are they going to manage it, or are you managing, or what?
Now, basically what would happen is that we will produce reports from the electronic system. Those reports will have a range of functions. They will obviously report on the type of work that's being done, and they will also provide a range of reports on the amount of audits that local government have been undertaking. Now, we've as said to local government that we want them to do at least 1 in 20, and at the end of, I think at the moment we're planning it's going to be about a quarter. Each quarter, local government will be funded $15 for every single audit that they've undertaken. For every form, sorry, they've undertaken, which works out at $300 an audit. And that's where the money's going to go to.
Yeah. All right. They've actually answered a number of these questions already, so we'll just go through stuff that which they've sort of dob in. A lot of the plumbers are really concerned about the way you dob. We have to dob it in. So you were talking about your procedures. So is there an actual dobbing in line that we can call up? Basically the way it's written,
yeah,
it's very similar to that.
Yeah, we have. You can ring up and we can be anonymous. We have anonymous, you can make any complaint anonymously. We also got it online. We've actually got a form online. We've always had one. You can go onto the PRC website and you can actually find a form online and you can fill it in and make the complaint. The only thing I would ask, of course, is that you don't have to put your name on it, but please put enough information on it so that we can actually follow it up. It's no good saying, I saw a handyman down the road installing a set of taps in a house in Smith Street. That's something that's impossible for us to really look up. But give us as much detail as you can, and we will follow it up, I can assure you.
Why was the Plumbing Industry Council asked to provide draft legislation for major changes to how the plumbing industry does its paperwork when they were going to be the main beneficiaries of the legislation themselves?
Okay, well, I mean, the Plumbing Industry Council actually didn't draft any legislation. The Plumbing Industry Council is an independent statutory authority. It's not actually involved in the drafting of any legislation. That commenced under the previous Department of Local Government and Planning, which is now being carried on through the Department of Housing and Public Works. So that's a policy matter for government, who've made that call based on obviously submissions they've received in relation to trying to kickstart the economy in the construction industry. The Plumbing Industry Council itself is a separate body that looks after the licensing and regulations of plumbing. And it was just considered that would be the ideal body, as we already do that now, to actually look after this process.
Okay. Many plumbers feel that they were being given very little information or no information to consult on with. during the consultation phase. What actual consultation was done?
Look, we've had a huge amount of consultation. This has actually been going on for quite some time. In fact, I can take you right back to 2006, before even my time in state government. I was then in local government. And at that time, there was murmurs in the industry about over-regulated plumbing industry. And several of the groups that were pushing at that time were pushing to actually do away with certification as far as have it completely just self-certified across the board. So it's been rumbling along for quite some time. And at the end of 2010, early 11, that's when this really started to kick along again, because the call was to change the system from some major players in the industry that were concerned about the construction industry having an effect. So as far back as, I think it was in May 2011, I do have a list over there, that's when some of the consultation went out. They went out in newsletters. It was in the very first PIC Connect we produced in November last year. There's also been a consultation period on the bill back in late 2011, and that information has been out in newspapers and on our website. One of the difficulties we have had, and that's why Phil mentioned earlier about making a lot of phone calls, we've made about 6,000 phone calls in the last 3 months to licensees trying to get your contact details. And the reason one of that is that a lot in the initial paddle system, which is the licensing system, we were finding that plumbers were ticking the box, no contact. And they didn't want any contact, which then meant we didn't have your email and we couldn't contact you. So what we've done is we've now tried to make sure that we can contact. That's why it's very important to get your contact details, because if all we want to do with that contact details is to give you information and to feed you information.
Sorry, Chris, just on that, you've always had our addresses, and I've never had any problem with getting my licence back. But you say consultation. This here is consultation. For the last few visits from the people from your organisation, there's not been consultation. It's been, this is what's going on, and you've had 40 or 50 plumbers in the room pretty cranky about it because most of them didn't know anything about it. But the last two guys that came up with relation to the solar, I think it was the solar and heat pump, talking about the changes to it, they were saying this is consultation. Now, what we actually asked was, where do they actually go to for the consultation? They said, oh, master plumbers. Now, in that room, there was 4 blokes who were actually in the master plumbers, and none of them have been to any meeting in the last 6 months. So that is not industry consultation in any way. I guess what the major problem is that most of us would be in contact with you in some way, shape or form, and that hasn't been reciprocated.
Well, what we did was we sent a letter out to licensees, and I think that was back in, let's have a look. We sent a letter out back in November 25th, and that was your licensee letter. Every licensee got this letter back in November 2011 to advise them of the bill that had gone through in October, and there's the contact details there for the bill and the explanatory notes to be able to go on and read it all. Obviously we can't send, you imagine the size of a bill, we couldn't put that in an email, it wouldn't be any good, so we put that in. That's how we started off. But we have a plumbing industry consultative group, and the plumbing industry consultative group meets every about 3 months. And on that group, you've got the master plumbers, you've got local government association, you've got two of the major councils, Brisbane and Gold Coast are on that group. You've also got the trading authority is on that group, and we have water authorities on that group, hydraulics association, they're on that group. So we've tried to select at the biggest industry groups that we can get that represent the most number of people, and they've been involved from day one. Now, unfortunately, obviously, there's people slipping through, because if you're not a member of one of those organisations, then you're not getting that information out. So the other that is that we write to the licensees, and we produced that letter back in November, so that, we at least advised you that there are changes, there's a bill, and you need to go on and read it. It's a bit like national licensing. We know it's, we're trying to get you out and say, you need to go on and read this, because it's going to have a serious impact on what you're going to do in the future.
Okay. A large number of plumbers attended a meeting in the Cairns Council chambers in November during the consultation period. It was found there was very little information provided the Plumbing Council at that time. The plumbers left their business cards at the meeting and requested information which they could consult on. I know for a fact I received very little to no information from this meeting. Did anyone else go to the meeting? All right. Any of you get good stuff from the Plumbing Council? Why wasn't information, particularly the draft legislation itself, not provided so that we could consult on the issues in an effective way?
Yeah, look, there's two. I have to say I didn't see the cards, so I didn't. Did they?
There was a big file, we all put our cards in it.
Okay. I don't think we got them. I think that might have been whoever organised it. Was it Dave? May have kept.
Was that the council that was two of your young fellas came up? Was that the council chamber?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Everybody working for you came up and they took all the cards.
Oh, okay. Well, I have to say I never saw the cards. I apologise for that. Look, as far as the legislation, one of the difficulties was Cairns. We picked Cairns as one of the first road shows that we did on this, and it was on the 27th of September. Unfortunately, the regulation itself had not been approved in government and didn't get approved officially until the 31st, which meant I could not provide you with what you've now got. Legally, I'm obliged to not provide you with any information until such time as it's actually been passed by Parliament. So the only thing I could do was to provide you those schedules, because those schedules were part of the draft process, and all I could do was give those schedules and then try to explain it to you. Obviously, I apologise I didn't explain it well enough. But yeah, look, I mean, now we've as soon as that legislation was passed, we've then started putting as much of this out as we can, and that's another reason why we've been ringing around, trying to make sure we get everybody's contact details so we can get you the information as quickly as possible.
Can I just ask, this looks like it's going to run into hours, would it be possible to find out how to do the application online first?
There is a place online you can do it. If you just, on your form, there's a website you can go to, and you can, on the actual website itself, there's actually that slides there. You'd rather go back to that? I'm easy. Okay. I'm easy, I don't care. Okay.
That's more information. And I've had that since I've been in Queensland.
Okay.
All right, I won't take too much of your time, guys. I know it's been a long night already, but look, this system, I'm not the best computer person in the world, and I found it quite easy to use. So I'll just go through it quickly. If you've got any questions, please let us know as we go through. So basically, with the whole PAS system is, as we said, the HPW site, first of all, you log on that website. So what we're actually going to do is, first of all, create an account. So for the very first time, you have to create an account and validate the account. Once you've done those two processes, you never have to do it again because you've created your whole system. Then you actually go through the lodgement of the Form 4 and the payment and top-up systems. So when you go onto our website, you'll see this screen here, okay? Now, it's a little bit different to the actual live site. This is a bit of old information, but what you'll do is click on Create an Account. So you click on that, and it'll bring you to this screen here. All we're asking for here is your name, your last name, your email address, your password that you nominate, and confirm the password. Then you just go Create an Account. And at this point, it'll actually send an email back to your email address. So the email address that you provided is your logon details and your password. So within 5 to 10 minutes at the maximum, you'll get an email from the website saying log back in. So you'll click on log in here when you go back to the website. And now for the first time, it's asking you to log in. So your username, which was your password, your email address, you put that in along with your nominated password. And all you do now is just click log in. Okay, now you're actually into the system. So when you get into the system, this is the screen you're going to see. Where it says there's sorry, no results, when you get the Form 4s, all your Form 4s will be in the area there. So every Form 4 you ever lodge will be viewable on this screen, okay? So this is the screen you can come on and look at all your Form 4s. If you want to print them off for your own purposes, however you want to manage your account, that's up to you. But for the very first time, what we're doing now is say, click on Minor Works to lodge the form. And this is where we're asking you to validate your account. So all we're asking at this point now is your licence number and your surname. So for example, if your last name's Jones, licence number and Jones. Okay? And now once you've done that, that's pretty much it. You're now logged on. It'll bring you to the screen here. All your details here are actually generated from our paddle site. So it's an independent computer system to the PAS system. So if you want to change any of the address details, so if your address has changed, whatever it is, you're going to have to contact the PIC, whether you send us an email or contact us on the 1-800 number, and we can change that data for you. So at this point, check your details, make sure they're right, your email address is right, your phone number is correct, all those details are fine. Once you do that, say save profile, and now you're actually the user. You're logged on, that's all you have to do. You're only going to do it once. Once you've done it, you're done. Now, when you actually go to lodge in the Form 4, it's basically 10 clicks of a mouse. As I said before, any device that can access the internet, you can log through the system. So we've had guys down south with their smartphones actually doing it on site. Jump on the internet and use your smartphone and lodge it on site. It really is that easy. So I'll take you through it. So when you log in, obviously you click on minor work, it'll bring you up to the schedule. So this is the schedule. So as I said before, if you're doing a backflow device, all you have to do is tick number 8. Down the bottom, it actually, do you want an inspection or not? Most times you'll say, no, I don't want an inspection, so just tick no. Generally that will be a tick for you. So that's all you have to do. You tick number 8 saying you're doing a backflow device, and all you do is continue. And now it just wants to find out where that device was installed. So it's asking for the address. If you know the address, just type it in. If you want to use the map function or the GPS, you can use that. So with the map function, you can actually zoom in on the street, click the property. The best part about this system is no longer will you have to go around chasing RPs and those sorts of things, lot and RP numbers. It does it for you. So even if you just want to click on the property with the map function, it does it for you. It'll generate that onto your Form 4 for you. So type in the address. If you're doing a new housing estate and it's a new street, it'll ask twice, because obviously some of the functions that might not know that street exists. The second time, all you have to do is go confirm it. It will accept that address. Okay, so once you've got the address details, all you do is just do a search, and it's uploaded. Now at this point, it's asking for any attachments. So for example, as we said before, with the as constructed drawings, you just attach your as constructed drawings. If there's no as constructed drawings, all you do is just click continue. Okay, just bypass that one. If you want to upload some pictures or whatever you want to do onto the Form 4, this is where you can do it. So we'll go through that process. So you click just as you would with an email. So it's got a browser there. So you browse your computer system, find your scanned as constructed, and just upload it into the system. It's done, okay? So exactly as you would an email. At this point, you just press continue. And now it's just asking you to validate the information. So now at this point, you're just checking the information. Your details are correct. That the site address is correct. What type of work it was. In this case, it's emergency work. The date it was performed, all of those sort of things. We've actually got a PDF Form 4 there. At this stage, you can print that off or put it into an email and send it off to the client. A lot of the guys are saying, look, I send an invoice to the client anyway. I'll just print that off and put it for the invoice, and away it goes. Okay, so at this point, now we're actually to lodge the form. So you've created the form, you've checked the information, everything's good. Now all you have to do is just go pay and lodge. Now at this point, there's 2 ways to do the payment. You can do it through credit card. A lot of guys say they run 60-day accounts. All we say is, look, just get a 60-day credit card, pay it once every 60 days, continue on with that. Or you can use the online payment system. Now you can have up to $25,000 in there. Don't know too many guys who want to put $20,000 in there, but you can if you want to. That's the maximum amount. And that would be just like you do with your toll roads. Every time you use it, it takes $25 out of it. So if you're doing 10 jobs for a week, you might want to put $250 in there just to know you've got it. When you're doing the form, at any stage if it goes, look, insufficient funds, at any point you can actually jump out of the system, top up your account and come back. Same if you're doing the forms. You can actually do stage 1, 2 and 3 and think, oh, I've got to go pick up the kids. It's always going to be there. When you log off, you log back on, that stage 3 will still be there for you. So it doesn't go away, okay? So once you've got that sorted out, all you now do is just press pay and lodge, and it's lodged. And what you will see is the completed Form 4. If you see a little green tick at the top there, you know you've submitted it to the PIC. It's that simple. And on the document there, you'll see it's got the lot and RP, it's got all the information you require. And on the bottom right-hand corner, you'll actually see a PDF of the invoice. Okay, so that's the invoice you can print off that we're going to give you to say you paid the $25. A lot of clients are sort of saying, oh, what's $25 for? You've got an invoice where you can say, that's what I have to pay it for. As I said before, material list, labour, PIC charge, and probably include that if you wish. But so that's your Form 4. So when you log back onto the system in the future where it had no search available, you'll see that Form 4 in there. It'll just be a one-liner. Click on that and it'll bring that Form 4 up for you. So that's what the new Form 4 will look like. And that's pretty much it, guys. It really is that simple. But if you've got any hassles with the whole system I've shown you, we've got the 1-800 number with our staff on hand. We've got 8 people there. They've been fully organised with this, and they can step you through it one-on-one over the phone if you want. So, like the electronic system is really, really easy to use, but we're not saying you can't use the manual system. You know?
Did I miss where you put what you've done on that form?
Yeah, tick a box. Tick a box, that's it. Yeah. And as I said before, if you're replacing the RPZ and installing 2 on the one job, you can tick more than one box. You just don't have to tick one. So, okay, so it's very simple. Just tick a box. Yep.
With that top-up account, more than one person access?
Yeah, look, currently, that's not available. In the next build in January, they're looking at doing that. Okay. With the initial build, that wasn't an issue, but we've had so many people ask that same question, can more than one people access an account? What you can do with the credit card side of things, you can give them the details and do it that way. But in January, late January, you will be able to do that as well. So, yeah. Yep, go back there. Yep. Okay, look, currently, the Form 4 system or Notifiable Work system at the moment, the wording is installer, so the installer would have to sign the paperwork. Under the new system, it's the responsible person. So, as we said before, anybody can be deemed the responsible person. Generally, we prefer that to be the boss. I don't know too many employees would be too keen to be signing off on their employer's work, so the responsible person would be doing the paperwork. You know?
You said you just punch in their address there and their RP, the number comes up. Where'd that come from?
It's generated on the computer system, so we've got access to all the databases right there.
Put any address.
Any address, that'll put it in there straight away for you. Yeah, and I know from my experience as being a plumber, it is a pain trying to find out what the lot and RP is. This does it for you, so it's quite good that way.
Well, we get someone's residence and that other address.
Yeah, you could probably even tell the council what the lot and RP is. Yeah. But look, that's the online lodgement system. As I was showing you, it is very simple. If you've got any dramas, get on there and have a go. If you've got any problems, give us a call. It's that easy. You mate?
With the manual way of doing it, what about payment there?
Yeah, look, there's two ways you can do it. You can do it via a cheque, or you can actually use that top-up system. All you have to do is just have a notification through to it. If you're going to use that method, we advise contact us first so they can get set up for you. So they'll give you a receipt number. Every time you use it, they'll just give you a receipt number. You'll include that when you send the paperwork in. Or you can just give a credit card, depending on how you want to do it, how you run your business, it's up to you. Yeah. Yeah, mate?
Going back to the question I asked earlier, like for the audits, what time frame do they have to audit it in? So I know you're going...
Yeah, look, there's 12 months. So any longer than 12 months, they can't perform an audit after that. So, look,
You know, you're going to put an audit system in the first...
Yeah.
10 months, no, we'll not get any...
yeah. No, we're not going to start auditing jobs 6 years ago. 12 months, that's it. So if they don't do it within 12 months, you're home free. Yeah. Yeah, just in relation to warranty work with hot water heaters too. So with warranty work, you can do repairs on a hot water heater, but if you have to replace it, unfortunately, it's still a Form 4.
I'm just worried about only the things themselves and
Yeah, that's it. But any valve work on the hot water heater, you can replace the valve as long as you're a licensed person. So it's that easy.
But what about if your name's out there as a person who's installed that? It's built with, like 5 years later, or removed it.
Yeah.
Within 12 months. You're the first one to come.
Oh, look, those sort of scenarios, obviously, as a licensed person, you've signed a document saying that it's tested it, it's set below 50 degrees. If we come back at a later date, 12 months in the past, we're not going to be able to determine who's adjusted it. So under those circumstances, a court of law would never take that on. If it's been removed by somebody, so someone's just pulled it out completely. Yeah.
That's a common complaint, people who've not had tempered water.
Yeah, for sure.
Tempered water, they don't like it.
Yeah. And like obviously as a homeowner, they're committing an offence by doing that. I know as a plumber, I wouldn't be too keen to be pulling out tempering valves just on the owner's request. Yeah, but if you see it happening, like report it to the council, report it to us, we can definitely take some action.
If they say, no, we didn't touch it, so we've got it installed, but you go, no,
Yeah. Once again, it's like any sort of investigation, we need evidence. So if we don't have a statement from somebody saying that they saw them do it or back supporting evidence, and we can't define that there's no evidence, we can't take any action. Like we do need evidence. So a statement or physical evidence, or we actually see them do it. But no, definitely not. Definitely not. Yeah. No, it's quite clear. Like you can tell when a valve's been removed. It's the T section will be there.
that's what I mean, when I say temp with that, like handyman,
Yeah.
they can just not ask for it straight to the pipe, it's the leak hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all those sort of scenarios. If you want to report it to us, we can look into it.
Yeah, but all doesn't come back to bite us,
No, definitely not. Like you've stated that you've installed one. If it's not there, obviously after the fact, someone's removed it. So
Yeah, just a further on that, you can, of course, notify local government, because local government are still responsible for all the plumbing and the plumbing and drainage in their region. So if you've got evidence, you've installed it, it's on your invoice, and you've gone back 3 months, 4 months later and had maybe to do something else, you notice it missing, you can notify the local government and say that they've had their tempering device removed.
There's no forms for anybody to sign to say they don't have to do it all the way through. Like, if the customer doesn't actually want one fitted, they're not used to having one, they don't want to do anything like agreeing with them with it. Is there any form that they can actually sign that says makes them able to do it? It has to be fitted.
Well,
Is there any other form? The customer says they don't want to fit that tempering valve, like this water's not hard enough.
yeah, I mean,
Is that deck still eligible?
no.
No.
it's mandatory.
Yeah, it's got to be put on.
One exists.
Yeah.
Another question, your list, you said there goes, they've been going to your full list of everything you've done. Is that in the link with taxation?
No, it's not. We don't deal with the taxation department.
Still get cash jobs?
Yeah, so if you want to put 25 grand into the account to hide some money, go for it. Yeah, mate.
We replace a lot of water system in our hotel. It's on a reticulated block with the new system, recirculated system.
Yep.
There's no temperature bells on it. We have to go through
Okay. This is the scenario. If it's just one of the bank, you can do it. It's a component. If you're replacing the entire bank, you may be in a situation where the tempering valves may be installed, but you can replace a component of that plant. So, for example, if one of the heaters blew up, you can replace that heater.
There's only one heater there, but it's
So it's just a big boiler.
20 or 30 rooms.
Yeah, look, that's one of the ones. We're still in discussions at the moment in relation to how we're going to deal with this. It is a tricky one. Obviously, the costs of retrofitting an existing building would be thousands and thousands of dollars, and we're sort of working with industry at the moment, some of the big key players like Energex and those sort of places to come to a solution for that. But generally, you can replace a component. If you're replacing the plant, we would advise to put tempering valves in, but we can't actually enforce it. So, but this, yeah, at this stage, we're working with that. We know there's an issue with it, and yeah.
And one more question. When we send our phone calls in, is anyone actually going to read them? Or have they got phone calls we send to council now that gets shoved?
No, absolutely. Like they'll be there for forever and ever. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, basically, we won't read every single one of them, but obviously once they get put on the system, your local government will be looking through them. So if there's an issue, if there's the wrong information on there, it won't get accepted anyway, because obviously like the wrong address or something like that, that gets pinged back. But if there's something that you've got on there, because we've made it as simple as like a tick box for the work, you know, we're relying on you ticking the right work, because even if you tick the wrong box, we wouldn't know, in fact no one would know. So.
If we see something like on the job that's illegal and we go to do the job, and, you know, we're there and we add attachments to it,
Yep.
you know, with photos or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
will somebody actually see them or will they just get filed?
No, well, we will see the attachments. So we'll definitely see. If they're manual, we will see them. If they're electronic, then local government will see them. Yeah.
There's a comment box too. If you see that sort of working, when you do the upload, you can put a comment next to it as well.
Yeah, once you go to put an attachment, that allows you to put some comments in a comment box.
Go at the back.
So you can put it in.
Yeah, just, I suppose Plumbing Industry Council, there's a few grey areas about QBSA coming up, and also national licensing possibilities coming up also. Have you guys thought that far ahead?
Well, in relation to notifiable work won't be affected by either of those. The only thing that might occur if under national licensing, if national licensing goes ahead in its current format that's being proposed, they are proposing not to have an endorsement for solar and heat pump hot water systems. Now, we actually don't agree with that. We put a submission up saying that we don't agree. Having said that, if we get overruled and they do bring it in, what we would probably do is when we amend the legislation to deal with national licensing, we will amend the legislation slightly, which would still allow you to put a Form 4 for a solar or heat pump system, if you have the endorsement. And if you don't have the endorsement, then we would make it the legislation that you could do it under a Form 1. So that way anybody that's done the endorsement won't ever lose out, because you'll always be able to actually save quite a lot of money by the fact that you can do a Form 4 with it.
What sort of control are you guys going to have over the Form 4? Because like you said, for New South Wales, they're paying $60 something.
Yeah, no, what we're doing here is totally Queensland based. So it won't have any impact. National licensing won't have an impact on the actual Form 4 lodgement.
Or the cost, yeah.
Yeah, no, totally different. Yeah.
Yeah. A surcharge? Look, to be honest, I don't know. I think it'd be something similar to your online sort of shopping, that sort of thing. I don't think that there would be, but I can get back to you if you want.
Yeah, I don't think, because what you're going to do is just top your account up with Visa, for instance. You're going to top your account up. So I don't think there would be, because it's not actually being used. You're not buying a product. So I don't believe so. But yeah, look, we'll check that, and we'll put, that's a good question that we can put out to you as soon as we can.
All right, guys. Look, I don't think there's any further questions. Is there one at the back there? Yep, I'll give you a good story. This actually happened today, okay? With Bunnings, okay, there was one of our licensees reported to us that Bunnings are doing classes to renovate your bathroom, install fixtures, those sorts of things. I actually contacted the Bunnings store today and got on to the marketing manager for the state. They were unaware that you had to be a plumber to install a toilet and those sorts of things. Yeah, so look, I'm going to meet with the marketing manager next week. She's told me she's going to remove the stuff from the website in relation to that very issue. And we're going to sit down with them and explain exactly what plumbers can do. In the past, we've had Bunnings also advertised like DIY, we'll teach you how to install a basin. In Brisbane, we've actually gone to a few stores and closed them down. But hopefully by talking to the state marketing manager, we can probably get it finished once and for all with those sort of crazy classes. But
So then, would every hardware store have a no DIY sign on the account for customers to see
look, at this stage, your plumbing suppliers like Reese have really gotten bored. They've got stubby coolers, all sorts of things. You don't risk it, use a licensed plumber. In the future, look, if we can talk to Bunnings next week, as I said, with the marketing manager and get something similar, that'd be fantastic. But one thing we can't do is stop them from selling plumbing products. So, like similar with electrical switches, you can buy an electrical switch, your hot water heaters. It's an offence for them to install it, and that's where we can come into play. Yep.
You said before that you can go into Reece and say, you know, how many tools have you sold at this place, and we want to know about it there. Or can you go into Bunnings and say, we want to know who you sold tools to, and go sort of find out who you sold?
No, it's only if we're doing an investigation into a licensee. So if we're doing an investigation on a licensee, we can go to who your supplier is and get that information. But we wouldn't be able to go into a store like, we wouldn't be able to go into Reece and say, we want to look at all your records for every plumber you ever sent. We couldn't do that. We'd have to have the grounds which to go and ask that
And
information.
like your average homeowner, they wouldn't know where he lives. He just paid cash over the counter and took off. So unless he's got an account with them, but you know.
But if you had an account with Bunnings as a plumber, that would be different. If we was investigating you as a plumber, we could do that. No. No. I mean, it's near enough impossible to stop the DIYs. The only thing we can do is when it comes to our attention, we do like we did yesterday and today we followed it up to advise them. And then the one thing we can say is that initially in the first instance, Bunnings was a little bit, no, they didn't want to play ball. But we persevered with them, and I do believe, I'm not quite sure all the stores, but there's definitely some stores, certainly in the Brisbane area, where they're now putting up notices in the plumbing area saying you've got to use a licensed plumber, which is a good result. Yeah, Masters so far haven't been very forthcoming. They're fairly new, but we will definitely be following it up with them, yeah. Like I've seen some of those shows do renovations, and it's been interesting when they do particularly building work as well, and they're cringing, thinking, you know, there's no mention of permits or approvals. But obviously those sort of shows, you know, they sort of live on their own, and it's very hard for us to do that.
They hit the mum and dads every night or every Friday night, kind of thing. And that's why people think, oh, I can book my own holidays. That's where it's come from the last 10 years.
Yeah, well, the only thing we can do is just keep putting stuff out as soon as we can and get on the suppliers and ask the suppliers to educate the owners when they come in by putting up notices and advise them. And I mean, one or two of the suppliers, I don't know where it's through all their stores, but you know, I do know Reece Plumbing, for instance, advised us that they won't sell any gas fittings to anybody off the street unless they got a gas licence. I mean, that's a wonderful, that's a business decision they've made. It's a wonderful decision, and they've obviously felt that it won't hurt their business that much that they're prepared to do that.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, look, I mean, they're great. They're business decisions that the company can make. We can't force them to do that. I mean, but I applaud them for doing that. And all I can say is that, you know, you guys need to support those groups because, you know, companies that are prepared to make that business decision, they need to be supported by the licensees.
We do. We do, but if we just walk up to Bunnings and say, oh, listen, mate, you've got to do this, nothing else.
Yeah, it's better if it comes from us, yeah.
Yeah, the bigger fellas like you, take the government back. You've got to do it.
Yeah, well, that's what we're taking an issue at the moment, and that's what we're doing. We're taking issue with those sort of places at the moment.
Yeah, one thing we did do,
Well, they will now.
I checked with a few other acts, there's a Training and Vocation Act, and you have to be a registered trainer to perform any sort of training to do installations. They're actually in breach of that, and that's what I explained to them next week, is that you're actually breaking the law by doing that, which will probably change the whole playing field for them.
Well, why don't you find them?
It's not our act, but we can contact the department who does administer it and enforce it if we...
Find them and then they'll all start
Yeah.
talking about it. Everyone will know about it.
But as soon as we sort of say, look, you've broken the law, and here where you've broken the law, they'll back off in a big way, I would imagine. So, yeah. All right, guys, look, it's been a long night, and we really appreciate the fact that you've come along tonight. I hope you learned something from it. So just as I said before, just remember when you're installing, relocating, it's a Form 4. Replacement is just basically as long as you're a licensed person. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Just one other thing as well. This has been fully recorded. It'll be put on YouTube. So if you've got any questions you want to go over or anything you want to go over about the night, you'll be able to look it up. Basically, we will be using this if you need. Just say if some of you start getting fines and it's different than what you expect from what you've heard tonight, you can use that information as your defence because basically they're explaining to us what it actually is. So everything will be accessible from what you've heard tonight, online. And if you have any problems, you can contact us directly and we can give you an actual high definition copy for it for yourself. Okay?
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.